Star Wars Empire at War. This is a real-time tactics game, which we played a couple of those before, and the developers of this particular entry considered those old ones to be mediocre and wanted to make the ultimate RTT Star Wars experience. Little to no prequels content, I guess. And what's really neat is that this game still gets support and maintenance patches. That's pretty wild. The game, both in quality and quantity, is certainly superior to what we've seen before. Who am I kidding? This game is still awesome. Sure, you may not have the diplomacy of Rebellion, but this game is so cool. You choose between playing the Empire or the Rebel Alliance. And of course, we're going to play the Empire first. Like previous strategy games, we go to a planet and control troop and tell them where to go and what to kill. Immediately, we get to use Vader. Oh, those poor rebels. And yes, there are story modes in this title. After the first planet is conquered, we get our galaxy map. This is where we do all the work. We have planets already dominated, as well as gray ones that are up for grabs, and then red ones that are already owned by the rebellion. We can build ground and space forces on planets to protect them from random attacks by the rebels, as well as building our own invasion fleet. There are also space battles too, which are okay. So for the Empire campaign, Vader is tasked with hunting down the rebels, but the construction of the Death Star is underway, and Tarkin has us going to certain planets like Geonosis, there's a little bit of prequels content there, to get resources. All the while, we can planet hop to increase our overall control over the galaxy, during which we get to see cool stuff like Veers introduce the first AT-AT. But then we move into A New Hope as Leia steals the Death Star plans, and we have to capture her. This is the first mission I truly struggled on because my singular Star Destroyer was too slow to keep up with her. So I had to go back and upgrade my space fleet by building about 5 of them. There we go. Canon be damned, because Palpatine is pissed and sends us to use the Death Star. Oh, they let you pull the switch. Palpy sends us to blow up several planets, including Hoth. I'll make a pit stop at Dagobah. Whoops. Sorry, Yoda.
Marlin Green he was. Make that mistake, anyone can.
Finally, we go to Yavin, and we win. Glory for the Empire, baby. Alright, let's check out the Rebels side. We open roughly the same time as the Empire's campaign, playing as Captain Antilles. Mothma sends us out to do a bunch of errands to tackle the Empire and kick some ass. Playing the Rebels really makes you appreciate how unfair it is to be the Empire. With all their cool toys and destructive power, even on easier difficulties, being the Rebels can be a pain in the ass. There are some cool moments here, like teaming up with Han Solo, kinda teaming up. We see the Rebels' perspective of the Kashyyyk mission, and occasionally recruit them for some stuff. You got C-3PO and R2-D2 available also for stealing schematics from the Empire. Unfortunately, as the game moves into A New Hope, Antilles is killed, and we temporarily lose access to the droids. We do, however, get Admiral Akbar, and his ship is a beast. Most of the Rebels campaign really just feels like space battles, especially towards the end. It gets to the final Death Star battle so fast, I really didn't even get to play with my new ships that much. But yeah, you get Luke right at the very end and blow up the Death Star, and that's it. I think it would have been cooler if we could have played at the start of the first Death Star battle and gone up to Endor, and actually got to use more of those movie characters. Outside of the main campaigns, you have Galactic Conquest, with set galaxy maps that you can conquer, or Skirmish, where you can just do single battles. There is another story campaign as well. You see, Empire at War got an expansion the same year, called Forces of Corruption, this time allowing you to play the pirates. This is a cool pirate guy who opens with escaping an Imperial prison thanks to Han's help. He has this cool ability where he can bribe people to ally with him. So Tiber wants to be the big boy gangster to rule the galaxy through corruption, having enemies like Jabba and just about anyone else against him. So after the destruction of the first Death Star, Tiber scavenges from the scraps, finding a bunch of schematics for weapons. This leads to a huge skirmish with the Rebels, the Empire, and the Hutts. We have several ways of utilizing planets instead of just attacking them. We can corrupt them, blackmail them, all of these different underground means of control. During our campaign against the Hutts, we get control of droidekas from the Clone Wars. Those things are destructive. Next we have to go to Dathomir, great addition to the game, to find some powerful allies. There we save and create a strained partnership with Sulri, who has a pet Rancor and a light whip. Tiber found the Sith holocron but doesn't have a clue and needs Sulri to unlock its secrets, although she isn't very keen on being truthful. Meanwhile, we piss off Thrawn. There he is. And Shizor? I love the references in this game. We actually set up Shizor, and then Vader and the Emperor execute him for it. Tiber is an oddball, but he's got a lot of charisma that makes him a very fun, original character.
These are actions that you will set in motion. Lie to me, betray me, withhold information from me again, and all of these things will come to pass. Am I as clear as I can possibly be?
I understand.
Splendid.
We do get to fight Thrawn also, but he just runs away. And it's never really resolved. The game ends with us breaking into Palpatine's personal vault. Getting into his personal museum was awesome. I've always wondered about this since it was mentioned in books. And I love when we get to see more of Coruscant when it was under Palpatine's rule. There's so many cool references here too. They got all 3 forms of the Dark Troopers. After that, the events of Return of the Jedi happen. The second Death Star is destroyed and the Emperor is killed. And Tiber uses this opportunity to steal their in-construction ship, which I guess was supposed to be a baby Death Star. It has one of those super lasers on it. Here we kill Han Solo. Whoa, wow. But we do win, and Tiber has enough money to have a lot of influence in this new age of the Republic. Meanwhile, Suri uses the Sith holocron to find this area that has all these Sith that have been frozen in carbonite. Well, we won't get a resolution to that. Yeah, this is still my favorite Star Wars strategy game. It's so much fun, even today. The mechanics are still great. The fact that it's still getting modern support, the visuals, the lore, and just playing with Star Wars history is so much fun. And there's loads of mods as well with a very strong community that keep this game alive. I highly recommend checking this one out if you haven't. Alright, the next game of 2006 is a beloved classic by, I'm sure, most of you. LEGO Star Wars II, the original trilogy. It goes without saying that the original was an absolute hit, so making a sequel based on the next set of films just made sense. It released the same time as the DVDs of the original trilogy, which was a huge deal. I still have my copies here with the Xbox demo for the game. So LEGO Star Wars 2 released on multiple platforms, all the major consoles of course, but interestingly also the new Xbox 360, which is the only native HD way to play the game outside of PC. 360 also had achievements, being the only version of the game to do so. There were also several portable ports of the game that we'll talk about afterwards. So LEGO Star Wars 2 made a lot of additions that overall just made a much better gaming experience over the first title. Using vehicles, actually building things, hats, melee attacks, many of which are unique to specific characters. For example, Chewie can rip off the arms of enemies. You can even create your own characters too. And the overall textures and animations look a bit cleaner, which is really nice for being released just a year after the predecessor. And of course the big one. This game is based off of the original trilogy, which, sorry to say to prequel fans, but generally the prequel trilogy is the most beloved of Star Wars. So that already makes the game a bit more appealing to audiences. This is my first time playing the 360 version as well. I grew up with the GameCube version. Now I have played this game many times in my life, so I gave myself a personal challenge with this one. To get all achievements, you basically have to beat the game without dying. You have to beat each level without dying once, and no extras. Yeah, that sounds fun. Sure, let's do that. If you recall, the first game had a bonus mission featuring this opening cutscene. That mission, however, had you playing from Vader's perspective. This one has us playing as Leia and Antilles, looking for the droids on the Tantive 4. Immediately, we can see how much more cinematic the cutscenes are in this game. The levels are also a lot more intricate and lengthy. The first section has us traveling to Tantive and giving R2 the Death Star plans, before Leia goes off to get captured while the rebels assist the droids to the escape pods. Again, these cutscenes do a beautiful job recreating the famous moments of the film in a fun, family-friendly fashion, also being the most detailed cutscene recreations we've seen so far of these films in video game form. As is tradition, each film has 6 levels, all with minikit collectibles to find and replay. But first we gotta go through story mode. The second level has us playing as Luke Skywalker looking for R2 and C-3PO, who has been droid napped just like the old classic New Hope games. I love the cutscene of the Jawas going in and stealing the droids, little goobers. And since these games have to stay with 2 players for co-op, the order of events are changed a bit here as Obi-Wan Old Ben is already joining up with Luke to find the droids. We travel the Dune Sea and fight Tusken Raiders together until coming across a sandcrawler, again seeing more influence from the older games, but a lot less tedious this time. The second half has us making our way to Old Ben's home, where I had my first death, unfortunately. That's when I decided not to worry too much about the true Jedis while going for no deaths, because then I'll just go insane. The third level is Mos Eisley, Imperials at every corner infinitely spawning and blasting you. You've got the land speeder, but these damn Jawas keep trying to steal it. But look, you can actually sell it off. Afterwards, we hit a roadblock, and the best solution is to build a whole damn ATST. I greatly underestimated how annoying this no-death challenge would be. Well, we made it to the cantina. Oh, Greedo definitely didn't shoot first there. I love the droids in the background trying to disguise themselves because droids aren't allowed in the cantina. Now we play as Han getting the Falcon, with a boss fight against the Imperial spy who narcs on them. Oh, my heart was racing on this one. So much bullet dodging. I like how Han does a little Quagmire thing with his neck.
Alright.
Now it's time for the Death Star. The Death Star is broken into 2 levels. The first is rescuing Leia. This is where the gang dresses up like stormtroopers and infiltrates the space station. It's a cool little stage that lets you camouflage, introducing the hat mechanic. It lets you wear stormtrooper helmets and kinda blend in. Although the stormtroopers here are a lot more suspicious than the movie, and will freak out over anything. After getting Leia, we end up in a trash compactor with a fun cutscene. Then the game recreates the famous escape, which originally had the gang splitting up in the film, but here they stick together, although we do get to see both sides of the iconic moments. As we bring the Falcon up to escape, we watch Obi-Wan's tragic end. And now for the Death Star attack. Again, I love how accurate and yet fast they can recreate these famous moments from the film. Well, this is no Rogue Squadron 2, but it's still pretty damn fun. As you can see, the flight missions are much more sophisticated in this game. Here we start off on the Death Star's surface. The X-Wing can hold proton torpedoes, 3 at a time. There are specific markers that you have to destroy with these to take down the ray shields. After doing this for 3 sections, we move on to the trench run, which isn't too difficult. You just go straight to blasting all the turrets and taking out Vader's entourage. And then you blow the big boy up.
Oh!
And with that, I finished A New Hope with no deaths. Ooh. After beating the first movie, we can actually look around now for some other stuff. One thing I want to acknowledge, if you're playing this game on the PS2, GameCube, or Xbox Original, and you have a save from the first LEGO game, you can use an extra to unlock all of those old characters. However, for the 360, you have to buy it as DLC. Now it is only $1, but still, that's kinda weird. Now with this DLC, you should be able to have everything you need for free play. Well, besides a Stormtrooper and Imperial ship. In free play, you have to get both True Jedi and all the mini kits, as well as these red bricks which unlock extras for you to buy in the shop and use. The mini kit ship of the Star Destroyer on the first mission is very nostalgic for me, so I actually had one just like that when I was younger. After doing all that, there's also these bonus missions in this room here. The first is Super Story, which is basically speedrunning through the entire campaign in one go, as well as these other missions where you pick characters to try and earn 1,000,000 studs, and this vehicle one where you actually get to use the mini kit vehicles you unlock. Now for Empire. My favorite Star Wars movie. This game goes through the opening of the film in one nice cutscene showing the Wampa attack, which could have been a cool level with Luke and Han, but we move straight on to the speeders. No, mustache guy. I'm not overly fond of this mission because of the tow cable mechanic. You have to tow these bombs to hit certain explosives, and they are a pain in the ass to maneuver, especially with these probe droids that keep trying to steal them from you. They don't even want it, they just don't want you to have it. The level ends on a huge battle where you have to basically destroy every type of enemy. And then we move on to Han and Leia at Echo Base. This mission can be pretty tricky with no deaths because of those damn turrets that blast you. I'd be really careful with those. I always really liked this mission as a kid. I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe the level design was just really appealing to me. That and building the Falcon. Speaking of, we actually get 2 flight missions in this one. Here we have the famous asteroid escape from the film. Moving on to Dagobah, where this entire section of the film is done in one level. The first has us playing as Luke in his pilot outfit trying to find Yoda. And when we do find him, he smashes us with a damn rock. Afterwards, we move on to Luke's Jedi training. And I really like how they incorporated the whole Yoda on Luke's back thing. Luke at first cannot use the Force properly, so he needs Yoda to ride on his back to learn. After mastering the Force pretty quickly, we do the whole cave section with the fake Darth Vader. Although, they didn't really explain it well. And the timeline gets a little muddied here with the next two stages. The next level is Luke versus Vader, which happens here before Han gets frozen. Now this could be a little jarring for those who don't have the context of the film. Regardless, this is a nice stage here with a long fight against Vader, going through these iconic moments of the fight in all these different stages, making this feel like a fun and worthy boss against Vader himself. A lot easier than the older games. The ending cutscene is pretty funny too, although I wonder who took that photo of Anakin and pregnant Padme. Now Luke has to hang there for a while we do the entirety of the next mission. I love this little hand kiss that Lando does to Leia. I also love how you can just kill civilians here for hearts if you need them. We chase Boba Fett for a little bit here, have a little boss fight with him before he runs away, and then we escape Cloud City, getting the Falcon and saving Luke. And with that, we beat Empire with no death. And before moving on to Jedi, let's clean up and get all the extras. Now to close off the saga with the last film. Jedi. We open back on Tatooine as the droids enter Jabba's palace, and Leia and Chewie begin their infiltration. They greatly reduce how convoluted this whole scheme in the movie was by just having the characters kind of meet up with each other in the castle, until finally saving Han, which results in a boss fight with the Rancor. This boss fight is a little sadistic. You have to feed him Gamorrean guards so you can hit him while he's distracted eating them. Eek. Lego Bikini Leia. The second level, the Great Pit of Carkoon, which has the final showdown on Jabba's sail barge. Oh, I have to do this with no deaths. Dear God. Here we have Luke and Lando reuniting with Han and Chewie, skiff hopping until the boss fight with Boba. Oh, come on. Urgh. Yes, I didn't forget. What a doozy that mission was. The ending cutscene is a very faithful recreation of the film too, on the destruction of the sail barge. Now to Endor. I don't care much for Endor in the films, nor do I really in this game either. These are my least favorite levels in the whole game. We have the famous speeder chase here. It's not really much of a flight stage though, and it does have Luke and Leia taking down an AT-AT post during what was supposed to be a covert operation. You kind of get to drive an AT-AT though, which is cool. The next level covers the rest of Endor, to the Ewok village, to taking down the shield generator. After that, we have Luke leaving Endor with Vader, which most certainly happened before all of that. It's pretty condensed here too. Luke and Vader don't even fight at all. He just has a change of heart, which turns into this large boss fight against Papa Palpy. He just bounces around like crazy, going from one end of the room to the other. Heartful passing of Vader. Kinda. And the final level the game has us playing as Lando and Wedge on the attack of the second Death Star. This mission almost broke me. Trying to get this with no deaths felt impossible. I almost gave up, I'll be honest. The first section is whatever. You have to destroy 4 Star Destroyers. The problem is you have to get torpedoes from TIE bombers who pop up at random. The real challenge is once you get in the Death Star. TIE fighters spawn non-stop, and sometimes there are far too many of them. It's a tight space and hard to avoid their blasters. I damn near broke my controller on this one. You have the first section where you open these gates, and then you have to blow up these turrets from hell. Afterwards, we're in the main generator room, and these things keep zapping your ship, leaving it stunned so enemies can hit you and kill you. The final section of the escape is pretty easy. You just keep blasting and going straight, you'll be fine. But yeah, that was a nightmare. But yeah, that's the main story, and sure enough, it still holds up. Some levels could be a little long, but I would consider this a near perfect game. From gameplay mechanics to its storytelling. After you unlock 60 gold bricks, you can build this Lego City room here, where you have to destroy everything to get 1,000,000 studs. And unfortunately, you do not get to keep this money. Spend about 200k studs to get the rest of the gold bricks from the store, and do all of these bounty hunter extra missions, which are pretty cool. There are 10 bounty hunter missions given to you by Jabba, in which you basically play hide and seek to find characters. Each one earns you a gold brick. Once we have all 99 of those, we can build a fountain that gives us never-ending spitting money. Thanks to that fountain, we're able to get the rest we need and got 100%. And I know I said I wasn't going to do this. I wasn't going to go 100% for these games, but come on, it's Lego Star Wars. I put too much time in this one. I know I did. I definitely did. I'm sorry. But this is such a near perfect game, and it's so hard not to just have a blast revisiting this one. And of course, there were quite a bit of odd ports made for this as well. There was the Game Boy Advance version, which I still have my copy of. This one's pretty similar to the first Game Boy game in style, but it plays a lot better and much closer to the console version. You have a world hub now, no checkpoints, you just respawn where you die. 2 characters on screen with seamless switching. They even incorporated True Jedi and mini kits. The cutscenes are in-game now, which can be pretty tedious at times, but it's also because of how condensed the game is. Each film has 5 levels now. For example, all of Tatooine is 1 level, from the droids being droid nabbed to Mos Eisley. I like the question mark over Alderaan before it blows up, and then it cuts straight to us already being in the Death Star. And this one does have flight levels, which the first didn't. They're pretty bare bones though. I mean, look at the asteroid field. It takes 30 seconds to beat. And we don't even see Dagobah here except for a cutscene. Still, it's a pretty solid gameplay experience. I had a lot of fun playing this one as a kid. Too much for me going back to it as an adult, but I think it's better than the first one, at least. But the real one to talk about here is the the DS game. The DS port is something else. I also had this one as a youth. I think I got it by trading another DS game, which is something we used to do as kids. We used to trade them like cards. This game starts promising. You have a very low scale version of the hub world. Pretty faithful. You can check the bar and unlock stuff. There's cheat codes. You can get all the extras from the start with cheat codes. Let's check out the story. Ooh, this is something else. The characters look good and even play like the console counterparts, but the AI is utterly useless, both for enemies and allies. The level designs are bizarre. Look at the cutscene of Leia distracting Vader. What? Something interesting is that you can actually do the fight with Ben and Darth Vader here. That's different. Damn. And then Luke just leaves. I love how unhinged these cutscenes are. It's getting a bit of following on that aspect alone of how bizarre these cutscenes are. And after you beat A New Hope, it actually sends you straight into Empire. No going back to Hub World or anything like that. No, you're just going right into it. Yeah, that's enough of that. There's also the PSP version, which was a very solid release. It most certainly is the same exact game, just scaled down. One big difference, though, is that there are no bounty hunter missions. Instead, you can replay boss battles from the first game, since it wasn't on PSP, I guess. This is a really great port, since you can literally play the entire game on the go. That's awesome. But the really weird thing is, this is the version that they put on PS5. They didn't use the PS2 version, or the native HD versions. They used the PSP version. Weird pull, but alright. I think most people would have preferred complete Saga being on there over that anyway. And I don't mean that streaming crap through PlayStation Plus. I mean the actual game there for download and play. And the last game of 2006 is actually a portable only game for the PSP and DS. I've never played this one before, but I remember hearing about it. I didn't even know there was a DS version either. This game has us playing as Rihanna? Huh. A mercenary Twi'lek hired by Kyle Katarn? Now voiced by Jiraiya. This game takes place before A New Hope, but that's not how Kyle looked in Dark Forces. Now, unfortunately, this game doesn't emulate very well. The cutscenes don't really work. It's like they're on hyperspeed. And whenever you get hit, this flash overwhelms the screen until you reset or go to the next level. The gameplay is simple but fun. You can alternate between blaster and blade depending on your distance from enemies. The blaster has different shot types. You can do special takedowns with the blades. You have this parkour button that allows you to do certain dodges. Lots of parkour in this game. Eventually you link up with this droid who becomes your little buddy for the journey. We can use them for tag team attacks as well as hacking devices and going into small spaces. The story has us infiltrating a Black Sun warehouse. That's the same criminal organization Shizor runs. Completing a set of missions ends with an escape sequence reminiscent of Attack of the Clones. After a job well done, we meet up with Princess Leia, who assigns us another task. First, we go to Alderaan to investigate some Imperial stuff and fight this guy. We trek down this drug production on Mustafar, and then we finally fight some Imperials. The escape has this flight section shooting fighters down, and it kinda sucks. You have to alternate between healing and cooling your guns, which is neat, but it would have been better if there was some crosshair, some actual way to aim your shots. There are times where it feels like I hit something dead on and nothing happened, and vice versa. Fun section overall, but it can get really tedious. While tracking the game's big bad, we get shot down by Boba Fett on Tatooine, always Tatooine, where we have to fight a whole friggin' Rancor. Rihanna then gets captured, not really given much of a fight here. We have to escape the imprisonment and learn about the Death Star, which we sneak onto. And we learn about the destructive power of the Death Star and are hired to find the plans for the battle station and warning Leia. So, Leia already knew it could blow up planets? According to this game, we have to go to Danuta.
Danuta!
And then fight the big bad and get the Death Star plans. I definitely don't remember this being how it went down on Dark Forces. This game does have a somber ending as our droid companion dies, but at least it was for a noble cause. This is a really cool game, actually. It has a fun story, cool characters, all just for a portable exclusive. Because it is a portable exclusive, the gameplay can get pretty repetitive, but it does have fun level designs and mechanics for the hardware that keep it from becoming too dull. I really did enjoy playing this on the official hardware. Oh yeah, there's a DS version too. The DS version is actually rather impressive. It obviously is lesser in the graphics department, but it does a great job recreating the game in that hardware. There are some changes made to work with the DS and its control scheme, but overall, W from Nintendo on this port. It's a really cool game. I think in some regards it holds up nicely. I like the new character and her droid. They're a lot of fun, and I know a lot of people are really fond of this game who had it growing up. This is a cool one. We've got 2 games for 2007, and one of them is, well, potentially the best Star Wars game ever made. LEGO Star Wars: The Complete Saga. I remember vividly the trailer for this game and the excitement I felt. Here we have LEGO Star Wars 1 and 2 combined for the new generation of consoles, PS3, 360, and the Wii. Sorry to those who bought LEGO Star Wars 2 on the 360 because here's the superior version. The Complete Saga isn't just here's 1 and 2 on one disc. They went through and revitalized LEGO Star Wars 1 to match the changes made in 2. And put all of it together for a complete package. Really, you don't need 1 and 2 if you have the Complete Saga, because while they are different games, this is just better in every way. Now, I won't detail the story mode here because I already have for both games. And I do already have a 100% save file here, so I'll just detail some of the major changes. 1. There's a much bigger roster, which also makes for a very fun character creator. They even got Ventress in here. There's some new features in the story mode. Older missions now have buildable items, power-ups, and the game just looks and runs better. There's a new 2-player duel mode. The hub world is the cantina again, but it's changed quite a bit for all the movies to fit in here. And the bonus room. This room is cool. Using gold bricks, you can unlock several different bonus levels. This includes the original vehicle mission from LEGO Star Wars 1, which reminds me, they changed up the vehicle missions. Mostly the pod race, which is a bit smoother and easier, but the gunship level is very different. Now the camera is different compared to the original, and they incorporated this damn tow mechanic. I've said it before, but yeah, I do prefer the original gunship level. Speaking of differences in episode 2, there's a whole new level. The opening chase with Zam on Coruscant. Now the start doesn't feel as rough as the original. We have an actual opening stage here. Some of the cooler bonus missions here is Anakin's flight. This was a mission that was not completed and scrapped from the original game. Having this here is really nice and does add something to the story. There's also the bonus level from LEGO Star Wars 1 and LEGO Star Wars 2, as well as a new LEGO City Destruction level for this game. And of course, the trailer for the next big LEGO game, LEGO Indiana Jones. And yes, he is playable in this title. And I can't wait to talk about other LEGO games at some point. But for now, that teaser is all we'll get. The last major thing I noticed was the new blue mini-kit mode. This actually came from the PSP version of LEGO Star Wars 2, but now incorporated into also the prequel trilogy. This is an extra challenge mode where you have to go around finding all these hidden blue mini-kits, which completes the level. Oh, and they did fix the music for Revenge of the Sith. If you liked LEGO Star Wars 1 and 2, this is just the perfect experience. I know I didn't spend as much time as you'd expect, but what more can I say that hasn't already been said? Plus, I've already talked about the first 2 in detail. This game still holds up and is one of the best Star Wars experiences ever. There wasn't a PSP port for this one, interestingly enough, but there was a DS version for this game, and I do remember it quite fondly. Immediately, the cantina looks very impressive. The character models look right, and everything feels like it should gameplay-wise. And now you can finally enjoy the prequel trilogy on the go, close to the console version. It's not an exact replica, but it's very close. It's immensely impressive how familiar these levels feel. Kinda wild that the PSP never got a port when the DS did give us such a faithful on-the-go version. Like previous portable versions, there's only 5 missions per movie, but we do have vehicle missions this time. The pod race is awful. You have to use both screens, the top allowing you to see what's coming while also dodging everything on your present bottom screen. The top view is pretty much what the vehicle missions are in this title. For what it's worth, this is a great port. It's not super ideal with an emulator, but with its mini games and faithfulness to the original version, I definitely recommend this one for your DS collection. Star Wars Battlefront, Renegade Squadron. We never got 3, but we got this. So this was made by different developers meant to design a game specifically for the PSP redesign of 2007. Well, let's check it out. Now, unlike the PSP port for Battlefront 2, this one actually has a story mode, as I would hope since it's only on this system. It kinda sorta picks up after Battlefront 2, playing the Rebels' perspective right after the destruction of the Death Star. We play as Cole Serra, who is the leader of a special Rebel squadron so cool that they conveniently aren't historically documented. What's really neat about this game is its customization. You can choose what weapons you want as well as specials off of a point system. Other than that, this will feel very familiar to Battlefront fans. Unfortunately, it's still kinda clunky given the hardware, but the game itself performs very well. The second stage moves us to the original plot. Organa has this important holocron, and Renegade Squadron assists Han Solo in capturing it. This leads to the first space battle. It's pretty simple, but I had fun with it. You lock onto enemy ships for dogfights and even have a boss fight with Boba Fett.
Solo might not shoot first when it comes to bounty hunters.
Wow, they really memed it on here too. This is a very episodic story mode. Pretty much something happened to this relevant Star Wars character, so go play Battlefront. Like this one where you had to save Admiral Akbar. At least they actually gave him an in-game model. That reminds me, the cutscenes are pretty neat in this. They kind of remind me of the first Witcher game. Some of them are nice artwork and others are filters over movie scenes. Always Tatooine. The game eventually does end up on the Battle of Endor. Look at all those dancing Ewoks. We didn't even win yet. Cocky little buggers. Renegade Squadron I think is a good portable game. Not too much to say about it. It's a very scaled down version of, well, Battlefront. It has multiplayer, which is cool, and Galactic Conquest. So if you were a big Battlefront fan back in the day, this would be a great game to have so you could play on the road or in school behind your textbook. It's certainly not Battlefront 3, but it's a nice addition to the franchise. Nothing drastically great, but it's not awful. Alright, here we go. 2008. This was an exciting year to be a Star Wars fan because we were getting Clone Wars. A new series that brought in a new wave of Star Wars merch and lore. I remember seeing the film in theaters, and while all those neckbeards were complaining about Ahsoka and throwing fits, I loved it, and I couldn't wait to watch the TV show air. And I did. For perhaps the first 3 seasons, I watched every episode on its air date. I was on that. Not only were we getting Clone Wars, but we were also getting a new multimedia project. Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. Yep, we're finally there. I love this game. I've loved it since I got my copy on Christmas, a year after its release because I got the Unleashed edition on PS3. This is the Xbox version I got a little later while collecting Star Wars games for the 360. So yeah, big multimedia project for the 7th gen of consoles, 6th gen of consoles, portables, novels, and Legos. This was a huge deal. It was a new chapter in Star Wars lore, kind of like Shadows of the Empire. But this absolutely could never be canon because the protagonist is so busted. There's technically 2 major versions of this game, the new gen and the old gen version, which I've never played all the way through until today. We're going to start with the new gen version, that's the one I'm familiar with, and that's kind of how they wanted the game to be experienced. Although the old gen version definitely holds an argument on being damn good on its own. A big deal about this game was its graphics and physics, which we'll look at as we play through. And I do have some videos for this already on my gaming channel with all collectible runs and the hardest difficulties. Force Unleashed opens right after Revenge of the Sith. Darth Vader arrives on Kashyyyk with the Imperials trying to conquer, but his mission is something different. The cinematics show some age, and I think it looks good still, for what it is. I shat my pants playing it for the first time when I was a kid. So Vader is the introduction of the controls. Now you'll notice I'm using the Force choke a lot. That's because I'm farming for kills for achievements. Force abilities are a big thing in this game. You have the Force Kamehameha, Force Grab, lightsaber throws, all from the start. And I love that Vader can kill his own troops if he wants to. Vader finds a Jedi hiding on Kashyyyk and discovers that he had a child. Oh yeah, this game has QTEs in its boss fights. Now Vader should have killed both, but instead found interest in the youngling and decides to take him under his wing as a secret apprentice. Many years later, the youngling grows up to be Sam Witwer. Vader deems him ready to hunt down Jedi for him, so he sends Starkiller to find Jedi Coda, who survived Order 66 because he didn't trust clones already. Alongside Starkiller, there's his trusty training bot, Proxy, whose primary motive is to kill him. Proxy has a neat ability of hologramming other characters, like Obi-Wan. Then there's also Juno, Starkiller's new pilot, who he is immediately enamored with. The first mission has us searching this Imperial station that's being invaded by Coda and his rebels. Starkiller is immensely fun to play, but more so after unlocking more of his abilities. It can feel a little bare bones at the start, but it's still a lot of fun. Throwing enemies around with a force grip or push, there's not too much to the combos. You can infuse them with lightning or force abilities. You have basic combos and Saber Fury, which is done with specific timing. I'm playing a completed save, so I already have a good bit unlocked here. Missions also have holocrons with unlockables hidden around that you can find for completion. You can unlock stuff like lightsaber colors or lightsaber bonuses. The boss fight with Coda is pretty straightforward. He'll get mad and start throwing stuff at you, but that's about it. The second level is on Raxus Prime. I hate this level. You unlock Force Lightning here though, so that's cool. You gotta do some platforming here, fight some Rhodians and Force robot junk monsters. The boss here is absolute dookie butter on harder difficulties, Paratus. He's got crazy defense and does even crazier damage. It's really weird that the third boss is the hardest one in the entire game. After that, we're sent to Felucia to track down Shaak Ti. God damn. Because that character has not had enough deaths in the series, I suppose. There she is training an apprentice, Maris. There we fight a bunch of tribal aliens on Felucia, which is a really fun map. I think it's one of my favorite stages in the game. And then we have a boss fight with Shaak Ti, with a whole Sarlacc pit behind her. Once completed, Vader calls Starkiller to a ship that's under construction. He informs Starkiller that the Emperor has become aware of his presence, and thus, Vader must do this, to not get himself destroyed by Papa Palpy as well. Palpatine here is also voiced by Sam Witwer.
Yes, kill him!
But Vader's a big ol' softy, and he saves us from space. I hate when they do this. Afterwards, we save Juno, who Starkiller has grown quite fond of, and then they escape from that place. At this point, Starkiller is becoming more of a morally gray Jedi. He's starting to question what he's been trained and finally has some free will, although he's still working for Vader. Now he is gathering the Emperor's enemies by gaining their trust of the now newly forming Rebel Alliance. This is where we start to get some familiar faces. It's actually one of the better animated Carrie Fishers we've seen so far. Starkiller goes to Bespin to find General Coda, who survived their encounter, although not fully intact. Man, Starkiller switches fits more than Padme. I love this mission because Blind Coda just acts like a grumpy old man the whole time. You can even pick him up and spin him around. This is where we're really starting to see more variety in enemies. Special Troopers, Flame Troopers, Invisible Troopers, Dark Troopers? And they're a bitch in this game too. Coda and Starkiller's dynamic is one of my favorite aspects of the series. He tasks Starkiller with heading to Kashyyyk to find a contact. This is Galen's first time since being a child here and discovers his past. Pieces of it, at least. Starkiller goes to save Leia from this Imperial facility, expecting to find Bail Organa instead. This trophy room is awesome because it's got loads of references of different creatures from the franchise. Leia, being the good Samaritan she is, asks us to liberate the Wookiees before leaving. Doing so has us fight this Imperial hunter man who isn't really much of a boss. Now back to Felucia to save Bail. Using the film characters' likenesses from the actors really helps make this feel like a hidden chapter in the story. That's actually Jimmy Smits playing Bail there. I guess since we took out Shaak Ti, the Empire decided now was a good time to harvest the planet. So it's looking a little different here than before. Imperials and Felucians are on our ass. And they're also doing this to the Sarlacc. It feels wrong. Which results in us actually going inside of it. I can already tell you those Imperials are not getting paid enough to deal with that. This is a really cool section of the level. So this is what Boba Fett had to deal with.
Okay, give me a color.
Pink.
P-I-N-K. Okay, now give me a number.
3.
The mission ends on a boss fight with Maris and her pet Rancor. Maris is a pretty neat boss. She goes invisible, camouflage thing, and tries to get cheap shots. This move's awesome, where Starkiller takes Maris's blades and throws them back at her. What a badass. Maris's lightsabers are really neat too. They're these guard shotos, which are like lightsaber tonfa. The plot is so bizarre, with Vader instructing Starkiller on ways to one-up the Empire just so he can take out the Emperor. Although Juno isn't very happy that Starkiller is still working for Vader. And I really do love Juno and Galen together, but we really needed more here to buff out their relationship. Comes off feeling a little forced. Then again, there's a novel to this, so maybe that fleshes things out more. While on Rax's Prime, Proxy decides now is the best time to attack. His boss is cool, as it challenges you to fight easier versions of all the previous bosses until... You know, there's something really awesome about Sam Witwer fighting Darth Maul, since, you know, he's gonna take the mantle for the character. Alright, here it is, the moment you've all waited for. Starkiller uses the Force to pull down a Star Destroyer from the sky and crashes it to the ground. This is why he can't be canon. Absurdly powerful son of a bitch. Is this where they got the idea for that guy in the Rebels show? Actually, wait. Sam Witwer blinded him too. That's gotta be some kind of reference. So wait a minute. Palpatine takes Organa with the other rebels, and he knew about his involvement as well as their own. But Organa still got to be sorta safe in Alderaan until it blew up? Weird.
I lied.
He said it. Starkiller has to invade the under construction Death Star in order to save the rebel leaders. This cutscene still gives me chills. The beginning of this is a huge battle royale, which really can suck, so you can just jump down here to bypass it. Bringing us to the
Planet blower upper gun.
I really love this, getting to explore the inner workings of the Death Star. This is so cool. After waves of enemies and the Emperor's personal guard, we make our way down the hallway to his throne room, where we face off against Vader. And never has Vader been so brutalized. He gets all kinds of messed up here. That's a really fun boss that could be challenging in higher difficulties. Now here, the game gives you a choice. You can either fight the Emperor, or you can fight Vader. The light side and the canon ending has you fighting Papa Palpy. And this boss kinda sucks. He just flings stuff around at you and uses his force lightning until you have openings to damage him. Galen has the opportunity to strike down Palpa, but he's a Jedi now and instead sacrifices himself to save the others. And yes, he dies. Poor Juno. But his death marks the birth of the rebellion. And apparently his family crest is the Rebel Alliance's symbol? Now there is an alternate ending that leads into the game's DLC missions. This is where you decide to fight Vader instead of Papa Palpy. The Vader fight isn't so different the second time, but his defense seems lowered as Starkiller embraces the dark side. Palpatine defeats Koda and the rest of the rebel leaders, and even throws Juno in the Rogue Shadow at Galen. This mutilates Starkiller, leading him to take on his own Darth Vader-like appearance, which is an unlockable costume and usable in the DLC we're about to talk about. That screaming is haunting. So yeah, Force Unleashed is still a beast of a game. It has loads of flaws and bugs, and physics can get pretty annoying, not a lot of recovery for enemy attacks, the jumping can be real slippery, but problems aside, it's still loads of fun, and I'm kinda surprised it hasn't gotten remastered in any fashion. Even the PC version for this game isn't that hot for modern systems. It's still locked at 30 FPS, which you can change with some modding, but it makes the game a little buggy. Still, I loved revisiting this one. It's a pretty short game too. It takes maybe 4 or 5 hours to beat. I do recommend playing at higher difficulties because easy and normal, you'll just steamroll right through. This game ought to have a little challenge to it. And it felt very rewarding beating this game on Sith Master. There's also loads of collectibles and costumes to find in the game and with DLC. There's a whole catalog of characters you can play with in-game models from different Star Wars media. You can even play as C-3PO. This rules. Before moving on, there are a couple DLC missions worth noting. The first is Jedi Temple, which is a sort of deleted scene, if you will, from the main campaign. Although available in the old gen version. I really like this one. Here we explore the ruined Jedi Temple so Galen can learn more about his past. There's cool sections here like this Jedi training room with all these spawning droids. Or this room where you can crush enemies with a giant globe. After finding the holocron, Galen then must face his trials, which includes loads of platforming. Afterwards, we have to face off against the Sith version of ourselves. This is a really neat boss. He has this move that can revamp your controller, making your gameplay disoriented. You can also turn into the good version of Starkiller, which you cannot hit or you will lose health. You know, it is a shame that this level got cut because it does help the narrative of Galen's moral duplicity, but I can also understand how it would hurt the flow of the story. The other two DLC missions are what-if scenarios based on the Sith ending. Here we have a fragile hope. Ah, see what they did there? Vader's dead, so now Starkiller is in the spot of Vader, hunting down C-3PO and R2-D2 on Tatooine. This leads him to questioning Jabba at his palace. I really do like Starkiller's Sith design. He's got these Freddy Krueger fingers. We go around bullying Jawas and Tuskens, making our way to the palace. Since Starkiller is now evil Sith man, his Force Lightning is purple. At the palace, Jabba betrays us, and we had to fight his Rancor. Now, unlike Luke, Starkiller has already fought about 10 of these things. It is neat how they mix Tatooine elements from Return of the Jedi and A New Hope here. Look, we even get to play with the droid torture chamber, where we also run into Proxy?
Thank you, Proxy.
Why did that make me so sad? They have great moments of Starkiller's sadness sprinkled around here. Great performances from Sam Witwer. As we make our escape from the palace, we end up fighting Boba Fett, now voiced by D. Bradley Baker, who voices all of the clones in the Clone Wars and subsequent Star Wars projects. Now that's a familiar sight. Then we face off against Obi-Wan, for real this time, as the gang tries to escape Mos Eisley. Not only does Starkiller destroy Obi-Wan by throwing him into the Falcon, goodness, we then have to fight against his ghost and obliterate it. This is so stupid that it's awesome. And that's the end of the mission, with Starkiller putting a tracker on the Falcon. But it seems that the rest of the movie events still somehow play out, as we continue to Hoth with Empire Strikes Back equivalent. Death Star still got destroyed, and the rebels were tracked down to Hoth, where Starkiller is searching for Luke Skywalker. This is my favorite design in the game. The snow design of Sith Starkiller is awesome. It's on the cover of the Unleashed edition. I love it. The level overall is pretty fun. We start by going to these Wampa caves. Starkiller kills his advisor because he made a mistake, resulting in this annoying platforming section. Can't blame him. We break into Echo Base, kind of like the deleted scene of the movie where Wampas are breaking in. Here we face off against Luke Skywalker many, many times. Throughout the boss fight, we turn Luke into the dark side and completely rewrite Star Wars history. So with all that done, yes, this game still holds up. It's still awesome. Like I said, it has its flaws, but they do not outweigh the overall great experience for Star Wars fans that this game holds. Just an absurd example of what the Force can do in the most stretched of imagination. Now, I'm really excited to play the old gen version. As I said before, I've never played it all the way through. So this released for the Wii, and was ported onto the PS2 as well, and the PSP, and they all have their own little differences that we'll break down. First, we'll cover the main story. We'll do this by playing the remastered version on the Nintendo Switch, modeled after the Wii version. Except I will not be using motion controls, thank you. We open on Kashyyyk like the other versions, but now at nighttime, and instead of stormtroopers we have the 501st, which I like that since it connects closer to the timeline of when this happens. The graphics are not as realistic as the new gen version, but they still look great, undoubtedly. Sometimes, not so much, but overall, good design. The controls took a little bit of time for me to adjust to, since it's pretty much remapped from the other version. Thankfully, I can actually change the controls in the settings to make it feel like the other game. The general idea is the same: force push, lightsaber combos. The grip isn't as good as the new gen version for obvious reasons, but it still works. And it seems like they use a slightly different script for scenes too, although the same voice actors were used.
A son. A son.
Definitely not the better performance on that one. The boss fights are pretty cool. It feels like a bridge between Revenge of the Sith game and the new gen version. They have more of a dueling feel to them. The general story appears to be the same, more simplified versions of the cutscenes, but the narrative is virtually the same. And the actors must have been tired or something when they found out they had to record these scenes again, because the presence just isn't there.
You are one of Vader's spies. You don't need to know anything about my missions except where I'm going. Now I need to jump to Nar Shaddaa. Can you handle that?
Of course. You are one of Darth Vader's spies.
You don't need to know anything about my missions except where I'm going. Now I need to jump to Nar Shaddaa. Can you handle that?
Of course.
This one's not nearly as cinematic an experience, but it does put more of its focus on the actual gameplay. It's a little weird that Starkiller doesn't use his signature style, instead just holds his lightsaber normal, but that's also because it was meant for the Wii, so yeah. It very much feels like a more simplistic combat style. It's still fun, don't get me wrong. Unlike the other version, this one is lighter, so jumping and platforming works a bit better. This cutscene gives me Spider-Man vibes.
Tell me.
Why? I'm dead anyway. Okay, please just stop.
I can't tell you. He'd kill me.
What makes you think I won't?
The upgrade system is a bit different. You get points based on your combos and kills that you can use for force abilities and combo upgrades. But your max health and force have to be found through holocrons hidden in the maps. Oh man, Coda looks so tired. After beating Coda, we get something really different. We have this menu on the Rogue Shadow. Here you can check extras, customize your saber and costumes, and cheat codes. Well, there's no trophies on this game after all. The next stage is also different as we head into the Jedi Temple for more training? Already getting training from his Force Ghost dad, I guess. These sections end with boss fights of Sith ghosts, all of which are new characters that were not in the new gen version. Interesting. After that, we move to Rexus to fight Paratus. This level is structured incredibly different. The enemy types also feel very different. Another one of these types of cutscenes? It seems that no matter the version, this mission always will piss me off. I hate these junk enemies. And what an abysmal boss. And I definitely feel like these return visits to Coruscant make it hard to stay covert. Oh, hi, Kari Walgren.
The scent of your feet is intoxicating.
There's nice additions here, like the opening to the Felucia stage, where Juno and Starkiller bond more, and actually see her start to question the Empire a bit.
You can't hide your feelings from me, no matter how deeply you bury them.
Felucia. It reminds me of Kalos.
That's right, you were at the Battle of Kalos.
I led the Imperial forces at the Battle of Kalos. Kalos was like this. Overgrown, teeming with life, and we raised the planet. It's a dead world now.
I read the reports. You did the right thing. You followed your orders till the end.
Yes.
Something that the other version was desperately missing. Ah, damn, Shaak Ti. Felucia is pretty similar in terms of design and enemy types. Shaak Ti meets her fate the same, and we move on to the new stage. The entire medical prison escape level is just a cutscene here. However, this time we do get to go to Nar Shaddaa. This should be familiar to you Dark Forces fans. Playing some bops here too. So instead of Cloud City, we find Coda here, but other than that, it runs pretty similar. I think I actually might prefer the stage, truthfully. But why are we going back to the Jedi Temple again? We do get this cool boss fight with Galen's father, which does have a little bit more impact than this. I feel like this whole thing just still could have happened on Kashyyyk though. Oh hell yeah, I got Mara Jade! Anyway, time for Kashyyyk. Kashyyyk is immensely more simple in this game, very easy. It's also here that I realized that Leia is voiced by Catherine Tabor, who voices Padme in Clone Wars. I appreciate this game also for making Organa look like someone who's actually been held captive. But no Sarlacc pit? Huh. The fight with Maris is kind of annoying. She keeps interrupting the fight with these different enemies and Rancor. Damn! The Imperial Rexus Prime mission is by far my least favorite. It was tedious and repetitive. Proxy doesn't fight you in this game either, nor does he ever mention what his Prime Directive is. So it's just a Shadow Guard. After pulling down the Star Destroyer, which was just a cutscene, there is another additional level now here on Cloud City where we have to save Garm. Bounty Hunter Gungan?
Weren't prepared for that, were you?
What a goober. This mission is still going? This feels like filler. It really does. And another new boss? And another boss?
I lied.
This definitely does not hit the same. The Death Star mission is another bare bones version, pretty linear up to the boss fight with Vader. I do like how his armor gets damaged over the course of the battle though. Just like with the new gen version, you have to choose light side or dark side ending, which means I have to play this level again. Palpatine fights with a lightsaber this time. This fight sucks. Not hard, but Palpatine keeps doing these clashes which just slow down the fight. The Sith ending is a bit goofy. You kill Vader and Palpatine throws a tantrum, and then it ends like the new gen version. Personally, I don't consider this the superior version, although I do find it a very interesting one, and I respect it on its own merits. I had fun playing it, definitely. One major highlight is all the bonus content, as well as a duel mode, which is completely unique to the Wii and Switch. The PS2 version is identical in story, but that's about it. The PSP, however, is a little unique. It's an identical port, which is impressive on its own, but it also has historic battles, which is really interesting. These recreate famous moments of the film in the game's engine. It's not the Revenge of the Sith game, but it's neat. You know, the fight on Mustafar actually makes for a good lead-in for the main story. Oh my... Oh... Obi-Wan just killed him in cold blood. Look at that stare. Yeah, they definitely weren't doing all that in the movie. The PSP version is awesome. And there's one last port to talk about before we move on to another game. Force Unleashed on the DS. Yeah. In this port, you have to use the touchscreen for every action. Lightsaber, force abilities, jumping. It's all with the touchscreen. Look, I give them an A for effort. It's Force Unleashed on the DS, and it's not the worst Star Wars game we've played on the go. It's cool on its own merits, however, it's not so great when you're emulating it, I'm afraid. Well, with Force Unleashed finished, that leaves us with a lot of Clone Wars stuff. This was a new big thing, and marketing was crazy for it. I'm especially nostalgic for the commercials and Legos, and there were quite a few bit of games made as well. A lot of Flash web browser games, which again we won't be covering because they aren't really available anymore, and they're just a different classification, like mobile games. There were two games, however, that came out in 2008, both for Nintendo. The first was on the Wii, Clone Wars Lightsaber Duels. I've never played this one, and the responses I've heard from it back in the day were pretty lukewarm. It should be noted that this is the only Wii exclusive Star Wars game, as the other ones were just ports. With the exception of Force Unleashed, that's a whole special case. Well, I bought this game for $2, and it's probably the cheapest Wii game I own. Let's check it out. The main menu is a looped clip of Ahsoka fighting Grievous from an episode of the series. Yeah, that's it. So there's several play modes, quick play, free battle, challenge, but you know what we're here for. Let's check out the campaign. The story mode opens up like an episode of the show using clips from the movie, which in itself is 3 episodes stitched together basically. The training is through Ahsoka, which makes sense. Oh, what the hell. The gameplay is as you'd expect. It's a fighting game with focus on the Wii motion controls to move your lightsaber attacks. It's pretty responsive all things considered. It had a hard time reading the directions of my swings when trying to do fast combos though. But other than that, it works pretty well. It's not a super advanced fighter. You have clashes with motion QTEs, as well as force buffed moves and throwing stuff from the environment. Get ready to work those arms out. The story mode somewhat follows the plot of the film, with Anakin fighting Ventress during the Baby Hutt arc. I probably shouldn't have just jumped into the harder difficulties right out the gate. The AI definitely isn't just a dummy, rather aggressive actually. The second stage has us fighting Ventress again. I can sense a limited roster here. Anakin vs. Dooku from the film. He just hit me with pocket sand. Anakin threw Dooku in a Sarlacc pit. I don't remember that happening in the movie. After the fight, the campaign jumps into the R2 is missing arc. I'm not really sure how much of the show was actually out by the time this game dropped, but I can imagine it was still pretty fresh. Yeah, basically this game just covers different fights from different episodes.
You're nothing more than Count Dooku's bald bootlicker.
Jeez, Ahsoka? Might as well just call her a bitch at this point. After all the malevolent stuff, they kind of give us this random final stage against this droid guy. Kind of cool design. And, that's it. Sure, it's got loads of unlockables, but the gameplay is just unrefined and clunky. They're still fun to be found here. I'm sure I probably would have loved it as a kid. The aesthetic of the show is totally there. The graphics are great for the hardware, the environments, the stages look incredible, the music, the sound design. It's all there. It's very competent for sure. And it's not much to write about, really. The last game of 2008 is a DS title, Clone Wars Jedi Alliance. This is one I had back in the day, and I still have it. From the opening, this already proves to be one of the better portable games. We have full in-game cutscenes telling an original story. This story focuses on Night Sisters, who I don't think were in the show quite yet, who are stealing these kyber crystals. So here we have an original story, full cutscenes, fully voice acted. Oh hell yeah! You can choose 2 Jedi from the roster at a time, making your own team combinations, which is a really cool idea. The entire gameplay is stylus based, but unlike Force Unleashed, the gameplay is on the same screen, so it functions a lot better. You tap to interact with the environment or to battle enemies. Now, unfortunately, when emulating, the touchscreen tends to lag games for some reason, so it's a bit of a challenge to play this game. I definitely recommend playing this one on the actual hardware. I'm sorry, but I can't even get this to do the QTEs properly. I'm doing the action, literally doing the action, and it's not reading it. Sorry, I had to play this one on the actual hardware, and I have no way to capture a DS other than the old-fashioned way. But it's a very simple game, it's very effective, and I think it's impressive on how it captures the look and the feel of the show, while letting you choose all these characters that required them to have their own lines for different scenarios, which is really cool. And it makes up for a short story by having a lot of replayability. Lots of characters from the show pop up, Padme, Ventress. I seriously think that this is a hidden gem that should be checked out by any Clone Wars fan, hell, even a DS fan. Relatively cheap game that I think is worth having in your collection. Now we move on to 2009, where we only have 2 Star Wars games, not counting the wave of Flash games and re-release complete packages. The first is a new Clone Wars game, Republic Heroes. People don't like this game, and I've never played it before. I've avoided it because it's had very, very negative response. And this game came out on every system. 360, PS2, PS3, PSP, PC, Wii, and the DS. Now I did hear it was a pretty popular 360 game for the express purpose of achievements. We'll look at the 360 for the general basis of the game. Let's see why everyone hates this one so much. Oh cool, there's a trailer for the Season 1 DVD. And my disc doesn't work. Awesome. Let's try the game, hopefully? Okay. Oh dear. Well, it's certainly the most cinematic Clone Wars game so far. It has a weird blend of looking really good and looking really, really ugly. Oh, it's this type of game. Yeah, this is another simple game reminiscent of Jedi Power Battles, but not quite as fun. You get platforming and hack and slash elements. There's some cool stuff like hijacking droid vehicles or the droids themselves. Unfortunately, after the first level, my game crashed again. So we're going to switch to the PS3 version. The more I play, I realize, yeah, this is very similar to Jedi Power Battles, even the little vehicle section here. Eventually, this game does actually let you play the clones, which is a first for these Clone Wars games. The blaster isn't ideal, but throwing thermal detonators is fun. The campaign is pretty lengthy, actually, sporting its own original narrative, most of which is on Ryloth. It alternates from Jedi platforming to clone shooting. At this point, I wasn't quite seeing why the game was hated so much. I mean, it's not Force Unleashed for sure, but it's not the worst Star Wars game out there. Looks decent enough for capturing the early Clone Wars style, which on its own wasn't the best looking in its early days, but as I kept playing, and then I realized, yeah, this gets tiresome real fast. The plot is whatever, it's really not enough to keep you invested. There's 4 campaigns with different sets of missions that interweave with another, like going from the middle of Ryloth to Obi-Wan on the Juma 9 with Plo Koon. And there's other characters like Windu and Fisto, Aayla Secura, Luminara, but the problem is that they all feel the same. And after a while you start to realize that, yeah, this is just kind of a dull game. I do notice that a lot of these Clone Wars games were geared towards a younger audience, which makes sense for obvious reasons.
But, you know, it's a film for 12-year-olds.
Anywho, this was becoming a real edgy time for gaming. With COD, Halo, GTA 4, gaming was really taking specific shape here as the standards were changing. So a bunch of adults complaining about a kid's game is a way you can look at it, but this was a time where gaming was becoming more interested in cars, guns, and prostitutes over light sticks. And I'm not speaking for me personally, because actually this was a time I was really starting to get into anime like intently. So my gaming shifted towards that as well. I was alternating COD with Naruto Storm games. So I can understand the perspective of the time, and I have no nostalgic lens for these games either, and they are just kinda dull. I'm sure with the right mindset or conditioning, these could be a lot of fun, and a lot of great memories for people that had them growing up, but it really doesn't do it for me personally. The PSP and PS2 version are pretty similar, just very scaled down, but the DS is an entirely new game. This is one that covers actually more of the movie and show and serves as a prequel to the console version, which is really cool. That makes it more of a companion piece. They even got clips here. The gameplay is much more linear than that of Jedi Alliance. It's still stylus based, but a little bit more linear. The overall movement is improved though, and there's some cool parkour stuff. This is another great DS game that lets you play missions based on iconic episodes from the first season of the show. I still think Jedi Alliance is a little bit more impressive. Instead of in-game cutscenes here, we have clips from the show, which is cool to see on the DS itself, even if they are greatly compressed. Both of the DS games are worth owning in my opinion. The last game of 2009 is Star Wars Battlefront Elite Squadron. Many of you probably already know this, but there was going to be a Battlefront 3. Within the last few years, we've seen a lot of incomplete but impressive stuff from what it would have been, but we never got it. However, a good bit of what the story mode would have been is basically what we see in Elite Squadron. This was the same developers who did the previous Renegade Squadron, so there's a lot of similarities there. One big difference here is that there's also a DS version, which that is the one I had when it came out. So this will be my first time playing the PSP version. Like Renegade Squadron, it has its own unique story, but it's much more involved. Here we follow two special clones, X1 and X2, made from a unique classified donor. They are assigned under General Ferota during the Clone Wars. There's quite a bit of difference in gameplay and style here to not feel as much of a clone as the previous title. The gameplay feels fundamentally the same, but the UI and overall visual style has some noticeable changes to it. Another big thing is the land-to-space aspect, which was a big concept that was going to be in Battlefront 3. They were going to put major emphasis on this, being able to fight on land and space on the same maps. Although flying on this game is okay. The story starts deep into the Clone Wars on Tatooine. The cutscenes utilize different footage from movies with narration. The opening battle is on Tatooine, weird choice for the Clone Wars. And it's interesting how these guys don't wear helmets either. They just go out with their faces open for fire. Really showing their separation from the other clones, I suppose. After the opening stage, we jump right into battle over Coruscant, starting Revenge of the Sith. We spend some time fighting in space before assisting Mace Windu on the surface. We get to fight with Mace Windu against Grievous. These clones are something else. While on a mission on Cato Neimoidia, Order 66 is executed, and we have to kill our Jedi General. This leads us into Act 2, the time of the Galactic Empire. We, however, do not fight the Empire. We join the Rebels and go to Dantooine to train under the Jedi whose DNA, X1 and X2, were cloned after. X1, on the other hand, stays on the dark side. Oh, an actual pre-rendered cutscene. X1 takes advantage of Grey's kindness and kills him in cold blood. The game then jumps ahead some more time. Now we're working with Coda from Force Unleashed. This mission is so bizarre. We have to go inside of the Death Star to free some rebel prisoners. I swear, these games make the Death Star just feel like not a secret whatsoever for the main narrative like it's supposed to be. This was also an incredibly tedious mission. After that, we go post the Death Star's destruction to help out the rebels escape on Yavin 4. Here we work with Col Sera from the previous game to destroy a Star Destroyer on our way out. We go to Hoth and we get bossed around by Luke for a little bit before facing off against our brother again with a boss fight. Ugh, this game is something. We then assist in efforts on Endor to defeat the Empire. And then after that's when it gets really interesting. X1 is still out being an evil Sith man and wants to be his own emperor, bringing us to the third act of the story. There's a few missions here. While chasing X1, we go to Vader's old castle to track down X1's location, which is a really neat stage. I really like this one. Oh, and we have a lightsaber now. The game concludes on Mustafar with the brothers having their final duel. Oh boy. Ugh. Wait, did we just get a girlfriend? The game does not convey its narrative very well, and that was the only thing that was really keeping me hooked with this game. I appreciate the changes and ambitious takes, but overall, this game was a much bigger pain in the ass to play. The melee combat was scarce and pointless, hardly functioning. The missions got really tiresome and frankly boring. Thankfully, this game is still full of content like Galactic Conquest and Instant Campaign. But overall, the map designs weren't nearly as investing, and this one just didn't do it for me. And the game feels older than it should. We're in the Clone Wars era now, but it feels like this game is still somewhere in between Revenge of the Sith era fan fiction type games. Somehow this game feels like it's before its time, both in visuals and narrative. I'm sure there's a lot of fond memories for those who played this online on their PSPs back in the day. For me, this one's just okay. Well, let's revisit the DS version, which I haven't touched since 2009, and hardly remember it. You know what? Call me crazy. You probably will. I think I prefer the DS version. Now, listen, I love Battlefront, but by the time we got to Elite Squadron, it started to feel a little stale. This DS port is definitely restricted to its hardware, but at least it still feels fresh. All of the core beats are still there. You shoot enemies, fly in space, blow up space stations. And the big thing here is the story. We actually have more cutscenes and more narrative to work with. The story is the same, but much more fleshed out. Yeah, the DS port is actually the underdog here, although it is a bit sad that this is the end of the classic Battlefront era, and it won't be for many years until we see the franchise's revival. Now in 2010, we only have one game. Well, there was a Clone Wars MMO, but that's not available anymore, nor are the dozen Flash games and mobile games that came out this year. But we do have this bad boy, Star Wars Force Unleashed 2. I remember watching the original trailer for this game and being blown away. Starkiller was back somehow. I especially remember the ads when watching the third Robot Chicken Star Wars special air on TV, and I'm so happy they included the old commercial in the DVD too.
Good thing it's on our team, huh?
Lord Vader, Starkiller has broken through
to our hearts.
Now, there was a lot of confusion alongside the hype for this because Galen died. How are they going to bring him back? Who cares? Because now he has 2 lightsabers. Get it? 2? This is the second game. Admittedly, I haven't played this one since it released, and I never even checked out the DLC before. Because, well, the game was a little disappointing. But mind you, that was over 10 years ago, so maybe I'll have a different perspective now. The story opens on Kamino, the cloning planet. So yeah, Starkiller is a clone in this one. That aspect alone turned a lot of people off. The whole cloning Jedi lore thing is really wonky. Anyway, you can see quite a graphical improvement in the years since the first game. The clone of Starkiller is still plagued by the memories of Galen, most importantly his love for Juno, which keeps him from being a complete slave to Vader. It seems that this has driven all the previous attempts of clones to absolute madness.
Leave me alone!
This clone, however, escapes and gives us the most Starkiller-esque return. Now we really get into the gameplay here, and it's simplified from the first. You have your combos that you can infuse with Force Push or Lightning from the start, which I like that since you should already know that by now. You have 2 lightsabers, which makes for cool combos and attacks aesthetically. It doesn't feel as drastic a change as one might think. The game at times feels really great, and it looks a lot sleeker here than the first. Less slippery jumps, and I feel like I have better control of the character. Look at Starkiller crushing TIE fighters with the Force. At least they made the lightsaber feel a little bit more like a blade. You can actually dismember your enemies now. But the Wii version went crazy with it. One of my favorite changes that they added here was the mind trick. You can make stormtroopers kill themselves by making them think their lives are worthless. Starkiller escapes Kamino and makes his way to his old friend General Coda. This brings him to Cato Nemodia, run by D. Bradley Baker. This stage is where you really start to understand the major flaw with this game. My god, is it repetitive, and the level structures just aren't as interesting. I personally don't mind this too much, but I can understand where the complaints are really coming from. I'm still getting my enjoyment out of this regardless. And like the first game, there are holocrons you can find, but they're not very well hidden. Most of them are just in plain sight. The boss with the bear in here sucks, and you're supposed to throw rockets back at them, but they never really go where they're supposed to. After the 2 stages, we have a giant boss fight. This cutscene that leads into it is really funny. Welcome to God of War, I guess. The first stage of the boss is very reminiscent of the giant bosses from the first Ultimate Ninja Storm game, from dodging hands to breath attacks. The second stage is kind of the same thing, but more personal. And then it ends with a long falling section. They were really proud of these. Coda calls in the trusty rogue Shadow to save the day, although Juno isn't there. Coda is upset at Starkiller's indifference to help out the rebellion, but rather to use his mind like a Jedi should? He name drops Dagobah so very conveniently for Starkiller to go explore. Isn't that planet supposed to be like super unknown, super secret? Well, whatever. Boba Fett's here. The whole Dagobah stage feels incredibly forced. You just had to throw Yoda in here, I guess. I actually wonder what Yoda could do for Starkiller if this was, more thought out and not just a rushed story that was written in a couple weeks. Starkiller goes into Dagobah's Force Cave for a fun trip. This game really could have focused on his existential crisis. It just did not play with it enough as it should have. It would have made for a really compelling chapter in what was supposed to be a trilogy by this point until Disney pulled the plug on the third game. Starkiller and Kodo then approach Rebel Fleet only for the Empire to attack it, causing mayhem. Boba Fett kidnaps Juno and we have to fight a bunch of robot spiders. Little critters are a pain in the oh, there's mama. It's kind of like a not as good version of Spielberg's Tripods. After that, we shoot down a Star Destroyer on our trip to Camino. Remember the last game where we used the Force to pull down one from the sky? Well, this time we can throw a whole dying ship into a planet while flinging debris out the way, and we jump into a TIE fighter. What the hell's going on? And now we move to the finale of the game, and it's been like 2 hours? That's including finding all the collectibles. It is very bizarre that Starkiller cares about nothing but saving Juno, willing to let the entire Rebel Alliance fall, even though she herself has dedicated herself as a great military leader in honoring Galen's memory, basically tarnishing his memory by saying none of that matters. But he is going through an existential crisis. This has got to be one of the most boring and worst Darth Vader bosses of all time. Mind you, I am playing on hard mode, but damn, this is dull. You just wait for minimal openings to get a hit in, 20 different clashes with long dialogues, and then fighting these clones, and it takes forever. The second section has a cutscene that is quite famous. He didn't have to do all that. I don't know what to say about this. It's like a 12-year-old's fantasy. Like the previous title, we beat Vader and have a choice of a light side or dark side ending. We'll go with the canon light side ending. The game ends with Juno surviving and Vader being imprisoned. And Leia is there. Even if it is a transmission, this makes no sense whatsoever in the timeline. Not to mention, remember when A New Hope opened on the Rebels' first victory? I realize this is a non-canon game, so whatever, but at least the first one still had some sort of feeling of being like a lost chapter, where this one just feels like it doesn't really belong. The ending cutscene is great, leading into a third act that we'll never get. Oh yeah, I forgot, Boba Fett was in this game, wasn't he? Now for the dark side ending. The dark side ending is an alternate take where an evil clone of Starkiller exists. And everyone dies. And now there's an evil Starkiller. Alright. Before moving on, there's one last major thing to look at. Like the previous game, there is DLC available here, but it's only one. Now we get the dark side take on Return of the Jedi. This goes straight into the forest moon of Endor, where Starkiller puts a damper on the Rebels' plans. Here we go through the forest, killing Rebels and Ewoks, poor little guys. Bet the creators behind Dark Forces would have loved this. We end up at the bunker where you fight against Chewie and kill Chewie and Han. Well, that's what Harrison always wanted. The second stage has us in the generator. Looks a lot smaller outside. And then we fight against Leia. This is awesome. After all these years, we finally get to see Leia with her own Jedi design, and it's a really cool design. I love this. Unfortunately, we do kill her, and then the Emperor kills Darth, and it's over. Well, that's a lot of questions that will never be answered. Outside of that, there's this challenge mode. It's a short game. I did all of this in a sitting. It doesn't live up to the first. It really doesn't. It's clunky, repetitive, short, and its narrative has a lot of holes in it. But it's still fun at times, and it's not the worst Star Wars game we've played. There's a Wii port for this one as well. It's not too drastically different, not compared to the Wii port of the first game. Downscaled for sure. There's some extra bits in the story, like a brief encounter with Boba. There's also Smash multiplayer mode, which I can't find my second damn nunchuck to play. The Wii version's actually a really good port. Oh, and then there's the DS version. Well, the cutscenes actually have voice lines this time, so that's an upgrade. It does its job. You get to play the game's story on the go, this time as a side-scroller. It's pretty fun. You get to use your stylus to draw your force abilities, like wiggling and lightning. I think I might actually like this port more than the first one. Moving on to 2011, we also have 2 games. The first is LEGO Star Wars 3: The Clone Wars. Clone Wars has had a rough set of games previously, but this one right here, well, it's LEGO. By this time, LEGO had been making several games off of different properties, and jumping from complete Saga to this shows that there's been quite a bit of advancements. This title is based off of the first 2 seasons of Clone Wars, although it opens at the Geonosis Arena from Attack of the Clones. I do like the idea of connecting the stories and to give us more of a detailed retelling of this level compared to the original. It now showcases the advancements that LEGO has made in the games since the original LEGO Star Wars, and gives us a more accurate version. For example, we can actually fight the beasts now that were cut from the original. I think it's interesting that these are the same LEGO figures that were part of the Clone Wars release, except for the eyes. I remember fondly collecting those Legos, and they sure had distinct eyes. The game went for a more traditional route, though. And one of the big things we see here with the Jango Fett fight is that we can throw lightsabers now. These games now have a more advanced reticle. Kinda weird we can't play Windu, and that's just disrespectful. After escaping the arena, we go straight into the war. This is our hub, for the Republic at least. We can't do much here until we get another gold brick, though. The main story has 3 branches, each having levels based off of different episodes. Now, if you recall, the show in its early seasons was not in chronological order, and off of the top of my head, I can't remember exactly how it goes, but I figure the most appropriate step is to finish our Battle of Geonosis. This brings us to the big battle stages that was a big gimmick for this game. It's like a very simplified RTS. You can build stations and call in troops. I like to use the tanks here that can just blast everything. These stages are pretty fun, but they aren't very challenging. The enemies don't really fight back too much, and after a while these can get really repetitive. After that stage, we unlock free roam in the hub. That said, there still isn't a whole lot you can do yet, so back to the story. I'm pretty sure the Christophsis stuff is first, since that leads into Ahsoka's introduction, so let's do that. You know, this game really highlights how great the soundtrack is for this show. They certainly took their creative liberties here, but this should feel familiar enough for fans of the show. The energy and atmosphere is there for sure. The missions are much more intricate than the previous games. More lightsaber uses like cutting walls and boss fights that are more or less impressive. Lightsaber dueling quite isn't a thing in this one. Not like the old one where you actually had combos. Here you just slam and throw stuff. Still, the levels have nice designs that offer an overall fun time. I suppose we'll continue the Ventress path, which actually brings us to the first episode to air, Ambush. I remember this vividly, watching this episode when it first came out. The pantomiming, as always, does a great job here explaining the basic plot of the episode. Moving on to Blue Shadow Virus, another arc I remember vividly. A good Anakin and Padme adventure. It seems I liked seeing them together more in the cartoon. Man, Padme looks tired. Ah hey, Ahsoka's here. Now we move into another big gimmick of this game, and I believe this is the first one to utilize the split screen in this fashion, where 2 players can be handling 2 different scenarios at once via split screen. I like how this boss can block lightsabers basically with his hands, but not junk being thrown at him. The cutscenes in this game are pretty unhinged. I don't remember LEGO Harry Potter being like this. The rest of Ventress' campaign has us playing through Ryloth. This is a big 3-episode arc that is done in 3 levels here. Oh hey, our first space battle. Space battles are pretty interesting. You land on different sections that require different tasks, such as manning the guns against enemy ships or getting torpedoes. You know, I used to have this exact Lego set of Anakin's ship. It's very nostalgic for me just looking at it. The last two stages bring us to land on Ryloth. First, we liberate the Twi'lek prisoners as Obi-Wan and Cody, introducing this cool mechanic where commandos can actually command other troops and order them to fire at targets. Then we have another one of these types of battles as Windu to liberate Ryloth. And with that, we finish Ventress's campaign. Now we can do more on the hub, including buying vehicles and boarding the enemy ship. Wow, they already let us get Dooku and Cad Bane. It's crazy, we don't have any droids unlocked yet. Well, that's about to change, because it's time for Duel of the Droids, a very bizarre story arc of the show, where R2 is kidnapped and an evil astromech takes his place as they try to rescue R2. I really do love the Clone Wars Lego Grievous. He looks much better than the original. What's really bizarre is that the back art of the game has the old Grievous on there. Weird. Droid fight! The next set of stages is based off the Malevolence trilogy. The first stage is a simple space battle, launching an offensive on the Malevolence. We get to play as Plo Koon this time, so that's cool. The next is the interior of the Malevolence. This mission sure is stuck in my memory. We link up with Padme and C-3PO, and I wonder if the Lego Harry Potter game had any influence on 3PO's little computer minigame here. I always really liked the whole steering the Malevolence into the moon thing too. I don't know why, I like that. Well, Grievous retreats defeated to his lair. Well, we might as well go there too. The game did well to try and capture that creepy atmosphere of Grievous's lair. Well, it's about as creepy as the Lego game can get. We get to fight Grievous's pet and then eventually duel him on a landing pad to make our escape. Veb kinda had that coming, not gonna lie. The next stage is one of my favorite episodes, Rookies, based on one of the main group of troopers, Heavy, Echo, and Fives, who by the time this game dropped, we didn't know how great of characters they were actually going to become. And this is our first mission to not use Jedi characters as well, so that's a nice change of pace. The last level has us facing Grievous's Koth, only to be captured. So we execute a mercy mission to save him, including multiple boss battles with Grievous and some space stuff. Well, now for the rest of Dooku's campaign. We play as Jar Jar in that one episode where Anakin and Obi-Wan get roofied by pirates. This mission takes a bit more strategy as you have to take down these towers without being able to call for reinforcements. And by this point you should have enough gold bricks, 30, to unlock the first bonus mission, which is actually based on the movie. So technically we should have played this one forever ago. This mission focuses on Ahsoka and Anakin saving Stinky and the CIS's efforts to trick Jabba. Here we play from Dooku's perspective and have a heck of a time getting out of this place. Even when beating Anakin and Ahsoka, the events still play out in the good guy's favor. The next stage is based on that episode where Anakin got that super concussion. Anyway, let's help out the Lemur people. And then we go back to Geonosis for this kind of annoying stage. Every time you clear the field, it resets again, setting back all of your progress, making you have to do this 3 times. Well, at least we get to play Queen Luminara and Barriss. Then we finish with a creepy brain worm episode with the Queen Geonosian. You know, like aliens? Yeah, I love all the alien references. They knew. They knew. After completing all 3 paths, we unlock a special epilogue mission, the Zillo Beast. Remember that Godzilla Kaiju homage episode? Or episodes? It's another soft RTS stage where we have to eventually subdue the Zillo. And it ends there. Without any indication of what made the Zillo Beast episode so memorable. This is a kid's game. And there is one more bonus episode using bounty hunters to unlock, Hostage Crisis, based off of the season finale where a bunch of bounty hunters plan a breakout for Zero the Hutt. The bounty hunters are pretty cool, like Aura saying with her sniper rifle. Robanino is probably the most busted character for unlocking stuff and getting collectibles. Okay, that's pretty awesome. And that's it. That's the campaign. After the main story, there's some stuff we can do. Mainly this type of galactic assault mode where we go to planets and conquer them. I mean, that's about it. Something pretty cool is that collecting mini-kits actually earns you legacy characters. They even put Starkiller in here from Force Unleashed. That's awesome. But like with most LEGO games, you can still try to hunt all the gold bricks and get 100% if you want. Although there's not really a reward for it in this one. This game, of course, also had several ports. Most interesting is that this was a very early 3DS game as well. In fact, I believe this was a launch title for several regions. The 3DS is still kinda not great to emulate, but it wasn't that different from the PSP version really, so this should give you a general idea of what it was like. It follows the same beats like other ports, but the gameplay structure is very different. Even for the PSP, we've gotten to the point to where it can no longer fully replicate the console versions as it did with LEGO Star Wars 2 Indiana Jones and Batman. One noticeable thing is that it does throw you right into the hub, but it did skip the Geonosia's level. The mission structure is also much more linear, going in airing order. The game does include cutscenes from the console version, even if they are compressed. The clones actually have the proper armor here. The console version was still using the early 2000s models. It's his own version, and that's pretty cool. And the original DS version is also very similar, just much more scaled down. You got even more compressed cutscenes here. The gameplay is incredibly similar, however, and that's still very impressive on its own right. LEGO Star Wars 3 seems to have some mixed reception. Some really enjoy it and even consider it to be one of the strongest LEGO games, while others think quite the opposite. I personally enjoyed it, although that is a very nostalgic game for me. I can't deny it has issues, and game-breaking bugs. Those are always great. I think it's worth checking out and owning if you're a Star Wars fan and a fan of LEGO games. The last game of 2011 is an intriguing one, and a rather difficult one to talk about on here. This is Star Wars The Old Republic. This is a sequel to the KOTOR series, but it's not number 3. It's an MMO this time, meaning that the game is free to play with in-app purchases. Now at first, I was scared that this wasn't going to work because the damn game couldn't even load on the loading screen. I had to go configure the settings with a text editor just to change it to windowed mode, just to get past the loading screen. And it's not that the game was stuck loading, it's that it wasn't even loading. Well, once I got it working, we get to choose our affiliation with a character customization. And I'm feeling a little spicy here. Let's do a Sith playthrough this time, so we can make our character with a much more detailed character creator this time. Now for a good name. How about, Jack Doff. What? Now, this is when I should say that I haven't really played a lot of MMOs, much at all really, so when it comes to comparing them, I don't have much to offer in this regard outside of comparing this to KOTOR. Anyway, there is a story mode here, where we play this promising fledgling Sith who, well, we determine their journey choices. The prologue sees our training on Korriban undergoing several trials, such as interrogating these prisoners. Oh yeah, we gon' be Sith. The combat in this game feels a lot more simplified. The level system is also pretty linear, and the combat is done through a hotbar now. There's also side quests available during story quests to help boost that XP up. And it is a really investing story, starting out with a rival student like an 80s movie with his bully sidekick. Then you've got a master and an ambitious overseer you decided who to align with. We spend our time building ourselves up the ranks. We earn a companion, Veda, who helps us get our lightsaber, and then joins us for our journey. And after getting our lightsaber and beating our 80s rival, we are set free to the universe. Now, Old Republic is huge. Bigger than KOTOR, both of them. I'm talking hundreds of hours of playtime, and it's pretty addicting. I really want to amass a crew with my friends to play this much deeper, but this is already proving to be one of the cooler Star Wars experiences I've had in a minute. It's not quite there in KOTOR levels of storytelling, but this makes for a great fun online experience. Again, I'm not much of an MMO player to really critique it in that regard, but as a Star Wars fan, I approve. However, we have to move on because talking about this game in more detail would boost this video up another several hours, as well as my poor storage trying to capture all this footage. This is worth revisiting for possibly streaming or another video. Just take my word for it that this is an awesome Star Wars game and a great experience. Now we move on to 2012. This is the year Disney bought Star Wars in October. Before that, we had Star Wars Kinect. What a note to go out on. This is certainly an oddity, much like the entire Kinect gimmick. It seems both PlayStation and Xbox really wanted to cash in on the whole motion aspect of gameplay that the Wii had. Xbox had the Kinect, which uses a camera that reads your body movements, requiring you to use your whole body for gameplay. Star Wars threw its hat in with this. Oh man. So yeah, after spending a long time trying to get the thing set up in my office, we got to play some. There is a story mode that has you playing as this Padawan trading under this OC and Yoda. This introduces you to most of the game's features. Lightsaber mechanics where you wave your whole arm around to use a lightsaber. I feel like a jackass. The dueling consists of blocking enemy attacks and using a small window to strike back. There is a dedicated dueling mode after this. The story also has you using your whole body, like going forward and kicking. Now there goes my slipper. This is not the best game for tile flooring. You jump, kick, and stop. Oh boy. And you also have vehicle sections like the speeder one here. You play with imaginary controls for braking and accelerating. Now there's also pod racing. There's also this Rancor mode where you pretend you're a giant monster causing mayhem. I must look like a sight playing this. Jeez. But of course, there's the mode people actually care about, the one you're waiting for me to talk about, the dance-off mode. Now, I've never played a Just Dance game in my life. This is about the extent of it. The entire catalog of songs are real popular hits that have been parodied with Star Wars lyrics, and then some that are just straight up Bruno Mars and Daft Punk, and deadmau5. There's different stages for the songs. Here's a Leia dedicated one where we actually battle against her in her slave outfit. Sure, Carrie would have loved that. Then on Bespin, the one that everybody remembers. They just keep giving reasons for Harrison Ford to hate Star Wars. No, Harrison, we can't kill Han Solo, no. We need to keep him alive so we can put him in a dance game that we're gonna make. It'd be really, really cool. The kids are gonna love it. For the kids. Yeah, I really wanted to get to the deadmau5 song with Palpatine, but it takes 75 stars to unlock, and my back was not gonna survive that. Star Wars Kinect is by far one of the most bizarre things we've come across in Star Wars gaming, if not the most bizarre. If it weren't for a major pain in the ass to set up the Kinect, or how old I am with my achy bones, I might have had more fun with it. I got this when I was younger, and frankly, I'm not sure if I ever played it. I never cared for the whole Kinect gimmick, but I did love the R2 console. Oh god, I'm gonna have to do this again with Dragon Ball. Well, after Kinect, there's really not a whole lot going on for Star Wars. We got an Angry Birds game. Forgot how addicting these were. And it's just Angry Birds with Star Wars characters. But that's also a crossover, so it doesn't really count. 2013, we had Star Wars Pinball, which is pretty neat. You got different tables of different movies. Still just pinball. And during this time, they were still releasing expansions for Old Republic and a bunch of mobile games. Yeah, once Disney got Star Wars, it was a real dry spell for a few years. I do want to give an honorable mention to Disney Infinity, which is a Toys to Life game. It had Star Wars content in it, so I'm chalking that up to crossover. It doesn't fully count, but I felt it was worth acknowledging at least. Looks cute. Now, it wasn't until 2015 that we got our next major Star Wars game. It was also the year that Galaxy of Heroes came out, which is a mobile game that is still going on today. That's a pretty popular one. Star Wars Battlefront. Yep, Battlefront remade by EA for a new generation. I remember the excitement for this, and getting the game day one. I still have my deluxe edition here, which is not worth very much these days. And I played it for about a few weeks before getting bored with it. Not to say that it was a bad game, it just needed more, and my friends weren't interested in it, so that put a damper in my personal experience with the game. And that said, I haven't played this game since then, so let's check it out. Now, this game has no story mode. It is absolutely dependent on its online play. So let's hope some people are still on this, or else it's gonna be a short ride. This game released the same year that Force Awakens would come out, so that was a big focus on this game was the new content. Although this title did release a month before the film. The tutorial is on Hoth, and wow, this game looks incredible. 10 years later, and it's still beautiful. Can I see my footprints in the snow? I can! Like classic Battlefront, you can toggle between first and third person. The shooting and aiming feels real good. Yeah, we can have some fun with this. After spending some time with these tutorial sections, let's try out online. Oh boy. Oh, sweet, we got into a game. I have no fancy weapons or anything unlocked, so this should be fun. Oh, the sound design is also phenomenal in this. This is the closest we've had to a real war experience since Republic Commando. And, well, the chat seems lively. So yeah, this is Star Wars Shoot Shoot. There's a lot of emphasis put on the customization. You play for points to unlock weapons and these cards that have specials you can use. There's loads of game modes, but unfortunately, I'm spending more time here on the loading sessions than actually playing. The flying in this game isn't super ideal either, but to be fair, it never has been in any Battlefront. I was surprised they had hero mode. I thought this game had neglected that. Battlefront 1 is a good game, but it feels like it's still trying to find itself. It's beautiful, it plays well, and it sounds incredible, but there's something missing. Like soul? There's no story mode, no galactic conquest, and no Clone Wars. No Clone Wars. There are a few DLC missions that frankly just feel like they should have been in the game in the first place. Battlefront 1 is weird. It's best enjoyed in its prime, but at this point, just go play Battlefront 2. Next up is LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens. Well, by this point, I definitely hadn't played a LEGO game in a minute. I don't know when I dropped off, maybe LEGO Marvel, which was a great game. But the weird thing here is a LEGO game based on a single movie? I thought this was a pretty weird choice back then. Why not wait for the sequel trilogy to finish and make a LEGO game based off of that? Oh, wait. Money. Well, I did play this one back in the day, and not an ounce of it stayed in my memory, so let's check it out. The game opens on the finale of Return of the Jedi, covering all of its major events in a single mission. Kinda like how Clone Wars remade the Geonosis Arena. Reaching the bunker, Vader and Luke versus Palpatine, and destroying the second Death Star. The visuals are rather beautiful, showcasing how much advanced LEGOs were actually getting at this point. More accurate vehicles and characters, although the environment feels even less like LEGO, even compared to the older ones. Something about it reminds me of playing with my sets outside on the grass, though. I kind of like that. They talk now, though, and I'm not totally opposed to it. But it does make the humor a lot more hit or miss.
I know what I'm doing. Watch out! See, what I was doing there was messing up really badly.
This is probably the least funny LEGO game we've played so far. And I feel like I shouldn't be too crass with it since it is a kid's game. But I feel bad saying that kids don't deserve good writing either. This bit here did get a genuine laugh out of me.
Oh!
It seems not even they could make fun of this scene. The gameplay is interesting, lightsaber combat feels good, but I am indifferent over these shooting sections. Weird to see us be taking the Red Dead route. There's quite a bit of additions in gameplay such as optional building and more parkour stuff. Since this is based off a singular film, the levels are much longer and sometimes too long. The game does well to retell the film, utilizing lines from the movie as well as voice actors to fill in some extra gaps. Another big thing in this is the game tries to have this open world, and I remember open worlds in games like LEGO Lord of the Rings or Marvel or Batman 2, and they were fine for what they were. I personally enjoyed LEGO Lord of the Rings a lot, but those games had a lot of context from more media available, and this game feels kind of empty because it's much bigger than what it's actually adapting. Ironically, the filler that it incorporates is much more entertaining than the free roam, such as these bonus missions like this one where we see how Poe survived Jakku and joined back with the Resistance. Stuff like that is cool because I don't recall that question being answered in the film. The DLC is really neat too, bringing in stuff like Rebels, which I believe was pretty new at the time. I had only just very recently started that show myself, and now I actually know who these characters are. There's 10 story missions that cover the film and the epilogue, ending on a literal cliffhanger. I don't know, Force Awakens isn't a bad game, but it's not one of my favorite LEGO games, and it's not one of my favorite Star Wars games either. But the biggest problem there is that we have another option, and that's the biggest praise I can give this game, is that it got me really excited to play Skywalker Saga again. There were portable versions of this game as well, and like all the other LEGO games, they're downscaled, but they get the job done. You still get to experience the game. 2017 saw the release of Star Wars Battlefront II. This is actually a good time to play this because there's currently a movement by the fan base begging for a Battlefront 3. So there's been a resurgence in popularity. Battlefront 2 is essentially better than 1 in every aspect. For one thing, it covers all 3 trilogies: the Clone Wars, the Galactic Empire, and the new Rebels or Resistance or whatever they call the sequel campaign. Clone Wars being the big one. The one war that genuinely feels like an actual war. A genuine battle between 2 parties and not just a small band of freedom fighters against an entire empire. This also means there's more heroes to choose from and lots of costumes and customizations throughout the entire franchise. This game is loaded with content. Now, this title did have a rocky launch, however. It put a heavy emphasis on microtransactions, and that pissed everyone off for good reason. So they scrapped that and let us enjoy an actual good game. There is a story mode in this one, and it's okay. It's not very original. We get to play some high-end Imperials at the end of Return of the Jedi, where they see them try and execute the Emperor's final mission. It's an alright story, but I really do love what they did with Luke here. I see this cutscene get a lot of acknowledgement from time to time.
Why'd you help me?
Because you asked.
This feels like Luke Skywalker, and he's played by Matt Mercer, Leon Kennedy himself. The story covers the bridge between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy, and there's some cool character work and nice cinematics, but truthfully, I feel like this game did so well in the multiplayer department that it didn't really need a story. It feels like they were obligated to have one because of all the backlash from the first game. The first game had very little content. That one needed a story mode, badly. This one, I think, has so much already going for it that I think it's fine without one. I do like getting to see original characters interact with prequel environments and seeing a little bit more of that bridge into the Resistance stuff. The story mode gets a lot of flack from people because it's just okay. The multiplayer is full of different game modes: Galactic Assault, although still no Galactic Conquest, flying battles, hero battles, which are kind of a mess. Then there's this mode called Ewok Survival, which my friend and I had a heck of a time with. You start off as a stormtrooper on Endor at night trying to survive Ewok attacks until evac arrives. And when you die, you get to play the Ewoks. But of course, the big mode is Supremacy. You pick your era and then you get sent to a planet. The first half is a traditional Battlefront, capturing points and trying to achieve overall domination. But then we go to the space station and you're either trying to defend it or blow it up depending what side you're on. These games can last a long time, and I've heard of them going for 4 to 5 hours. My buddy and I played on Naboo for over an hour and it was amazing. I had so much fun here. It can feel disadvantageous when you don't have a lot of stuff unlocked. This game also puts a lot of focus on its customization and unlocking stuff as you play through milestones. I want to put more time into this as my friends and I had a lot of fun playing it. I think this is easily the best Battlefront since the original 2. My fingers are crossed that maybe, just maybe, we'll get a Battlefront 3. Now, absolutely nothing happened in 2018, but in 2019 we got 2 titles, kind of. One of which was the first installment of Vader Immortal on VR. Unfortunately, I still haven't gotten MetaQuest stuff to record properly on the system itself, so I can't really showcase this one, but it's interesting. It's a dream come true for Darth Vader fans, I'll say that much, but it's not so much of a game, really. Definitely not the best VR game. I suppose this is still pretty early into the whole VR gaming scene, but the story is neat. Basically centered on Vader trying to use your character to gain this ancient artifact that he believes can bring Padme back to life. Fun story and all, but in terms of VR gameplay, we've definitely progressed much more. This feels more gimmicky to market on the VR, which was really starting to pop off at this point and being more accessible to people once this released. It's a good starter game, perhaps, for the VR systems, I suppose, but yeah. I would say that this is a better experience than Star Wars Kinect, but Kinect did have the dance mode. I'll let you decide on that one. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. This feels like our first major original Star Wars game since Force Unleashed, really. This game is also part of the Disney canon, I think. So that puts more restrictions on imagination, but there's still a lot worth checking out here. The story focuses on Cal Kestis, played by Cameron Monaghan, a survivor of Order 66. 5 years after it was executed. Cal works as a scrapper trying to hide his identity from the Empire. The game opens with The Who. Hearing that as a diehard fan of the group before even playing the game, I got really giddy. The Who is canon in Star Wars. That's awesome. Baraka introduces us to the game's mechanics, which is modern Tomb Raider Uncharted gameplay. Shimmy, jumping, climbing. It does feel good though. It doesn't feel slippery or buggy as, say, Force Unleashed. It's a nicely polished game, all things considered. It's just lacking. I do enjoy seeing all the old clone warships being scrapped as the galaxy transitions to a new era. Here we get to see what it's like to be a real worker in the Star Wars galaxy. None of that fancy magic tricks or laser swords. That's real work. I do appreciate Disney for giving us more of this perspective of the Star Wars world. Cal is pressured to use the Force to save his buddy at work from dying from an accident. And this title does do a great job with its seamless transitions from gameplay to cutscene, as well as Cal's nightmares of Order 66. The Inquisitors arrive, which, having not seen Rebels before playing this game for the first time, I had no idea what the hell this was all about. Our poor buddy is killed, and then we're on a train like Shadows of the Empire, or Jedi Academy. Here we learn the combat mechanics, and it's very simple, basic combo, deflection, yada yada. But it does feel good when you're hitting enemies. Impacts feel great, and sometimes I'll just swing the lightsaber around for fun. You have projectile enemies and these melee combat troopers. We're saved by Seer and Grease on their ship, the Mantis, of which this design I really like. And with that, our journey begins. Seer is a former Jedi cut off from the Force who tasks Cal with finding a holocron concealing information of Force-sensitive children across the galaxy, giving Cal a greater purpose and a reason to step up as a Jedi. Now we get into the structure of the game. We have a galaxy map with several planets available. For story progression, we must explore each map, unlocking abilities and clues to the holocron. Cal possesses a unique Force ability. He can use the Force to feel the history that belongs to objects, such as playing a song he's never heard before just by holding the instrument. The first destination is Bogano, where Cal must go to this old simple place to find a vault. Map holds special meditation points where you can upgrade your skill tree and save your game. After our first meditation, we meet BD-1, our droid companion. First time playing this, I thought I skipped a cutscene or something, cause bro just popped up out of nowhere and Cal was talking like we already knew him. Starting a fresh game can be kinda rough because you want to explore and get all the collectibles you can, but you don't have all the abilities to do so yet. No double jump or anything cool like that yet. We're forced to go a linear path right now. Cycling back to Cal's Force Echo ability, we go around collecting these Force Echoes, which greatly remind me of Neo. One of my favorite features in the game is the lightsaber customization. If you have the DLC, you get some extra little bits here, but most of the parts are found in the wild. Customization in general is pretty minimum in this game, although I've heard the sequels improved it greatly, so I'm looking forward to that. Mostly you have ponchos to find and outfits that are not drastically different at all. It's definitely not like Starkiller's wardrobe. You can customize the Mantis in BD-1, so that's really cool. As we play, Cal will recall his past and relearn abilities. Reminder that he was still a Padawan when Order 66 happened. As we reach our first cave here, it really feels like a modern Tomb Raider, solving puzzles in the temple locations to reach the ultimate goal or treasure. While here, we also get our first case of giant enemies, which show some of the more bland issues with the combat. Roll and strike, maybe parry. Roll and strike. We then move to Zepho to do some tomb raiding. Next clue leads us to Kashyyyk looking for Tarful. Arriving on Kashyyyk, we run into Forrest Whitaker, leading a guerrilla attack on the Empire's hold on the planet. I do really enjoy this section where we hijack an AT-AT. We help Saul liberate the Wookiees held captive, but hit a roadblock as Tarful's location is unknown. So, detour time, back to Zepho. Oh great, more tomb raiding. Here we travel some broken down Clone Wars ships and have another run-in with the second Night Sister. After this duel, she reveals herself to be Trilla, Seer's old Padawan. During our escape, we run into a bounty hunter and then get captured. This results in us fighting in an arena while The Who plays. It was really irresponsible of them to power me up like this. Fighting with The Who playing in the background? I'm not really sure what the whole point of this was, but it gave us some backstory with Grease, I guess, and killed some time for us to go back to Kashyyyk. After a long travel through the swamps of Kashyyyk, fighting critters and bouncing on critters, We found Tarful, who tells us to climb a big old tree. Lovely. And then we get our double-bladed lightsaber. At this point, that's pretty much everything we can unlock, and we haven't even been to Dathomir yet. We battle the Ninth Sister, and finally Cal beats a Sith. Well, now it's time for Dathomir. Hi, Marin. We also meet this totally not suspicious character in a cloak. We do finally reach the tomb, but flashback time. This is tragic. This is an incredibly well-executed sequence, perhaps the best in the game. Well, outside of the end reveal. During Cal's breakdown, he shatters his lightsaber, meaning we have to go and get a new crystal. And then the Wanderer reveals himself to be some guy.
Join my family.
Okay, Charles Manson. Time to go to Ilum to get a new crystal. Once we do find it, we get a much wider selection of lightsaber colors to choose from. We then have ourselves another big escape and finish things up on Dathomir. Cal finally overcomes his guilt for his master's death and faces off against some guy. During our battle, Marin joins us. Yay. We return to the first temple to use the key we acquired to finally gain the holocron. There, Cal sees a strong warning of what could happen if he were to gather the next generation of Jedi. Spoilers, it involves child torture. Trilla steals the holocron, which inspires Cere to return to the Force. She also knights Cal as a Jedi Knight. I'm not sure if that officially counts, but sure. We then break into the Imperial underwater base where the Inquisitor tortured Jedi and add more to their numbers. Oh yeah, no, this looks like a final stage.
Avengers!
This cutscene is still incredible. We've battled Vader many times in several games, from the NES to the 360. But this time, this game understood the assignment. The best way for a normie to fight Darth Vader? By getting the hell out of there. Taking advantage of their environment, the gang escapes. Realizing the danger that the holocron poses and how it threatens all the Force-sensitive children, Cal chooses to destroy the holocron and ends the game on a question.
So where to now?
I sure can't wait to find out what's next. Fallen Order is strange. I very much enjoy it. The characters, the story, the dialogue, it feels like the better end of Disney Star Wars. The combat, on the other hand, is pretty buns, and the game is really short. I bought this full price originally on PC, we filmed this footage on PS5, back when it first came out, and I was immensely disappointed on how quick it went, and even to 100% the game. And that's it. Nothing else. You get all the collectibles and you get plats, and then you just have a story mode that maybe you'll want to revisit again someday. There is a New Game Plus mode that you can use to gather items you may have missed with your already unlocked abilities, and new cosmetics such as the Inquisitor Cal. Still, it's enjoyable enough, maybe not for full price, but catching it on sale, I'd definitely say check it out. I've heard the sequel is more than double in content and size, so I'm really excited to check it out. We got a couple entries before then. Next up is Star Wars Squadrons. A lot of people forgot about this one, which is bizarre because it's not a bad game. Now, when I first heard about this, I got excited because I thought it was going to be a return to Rogue Squadron. It is not that. If anything, this is a spiritual return to the X-Wing series. The game has you playing as either the Imperials or the Rebels, getting to sit into the cockpits of your favorite vehicles. And while playing this on PC, I do still recommend using a gamepad because it handles better. The story mode alternates from Empire to Rebels, starting with the destruction of Alderaan. This is our whole tutorial section here, getting a handle on the controls, which do feel somewhere between the watered-down controls of the Rogue Squadrons to the complexities of the original TIE Fighter, somewhere in the middle there. It's still very easy to get a handle of. A big gimmick here is how you choose to divert your power from guns to acceleration or to shields. But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward first-person flight sim. You fly and you shoot. The tutorial focuses on a defector of the Empire after being horrified by their attack on Alderaan, switching the story to the Rebels, assisting him in protecting refugees. Then this jumps to post-Battle of Endor. Just like Battlefront II, we yet again are kind of looking at that bridge between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy, seeing the Empire struggle to keep its power in its battle against the New Republic. The story still alternates between sides, which I think is a really neat idea, interweaving TIE Fighter and X-Wing into a single project. One really neat feature this game offers is VR. Now I have to Airlink mine, so it's not super ideal, but playing this game in VR is the way to experience it. I cannot express the joy I felt finally sitting in the cockpit myself. The only thing that would make this experience better if I had one of those motion reaction chairs to go with it. The story's pretty short, about 3 hours, but there is of course online mode. Well, I guess nobody's playing this game anymore. Damn. Squadrons is really good, and having played all of the X-Wing games up to this point, it's actually really incredible to see the influence and evolution. The game looks beautiful and it sounds great. I think the biggest problem is that the name, which a lot of people like myself were expecting something more along the lines of Rogue Squadron, and it can set you up for disappointment in that regard. But if you're a fan of the X-Wing games, I would definitely recommend checking this out. Also in 2020 was Tales from the Galaxies Edge, another VR project. Again, I don't really have a good means for capturing footage here, but Galaxies Edge is significantly better than Vader Immortal in the sense that this one is actually a video game. Now, apparently the best way to experience this is on PSVR, which I don't have. It seems that they've improved it greatly on that. This title is a VR shooter, not quite as good as Pavlov, but it's set during the sequels era. And yeah, it's a fun shooter with a nice story setting. You play as this droid repair guy instead of a super soldier or a Jedi, so that's nice. You fight pirates in the First Order, not just shooting, but you also get to solve puzzles, explore, complete quests, sell junk, find collectibles, build stuff. It's a lot to it, and mostly you're shooting. That's still very much the core of the gameplay. But if you've got a VR, I would definitely recommend checking this one out, maybe even over Immortal. Although Immortal works better as a starter VR game. Although this one's a bit better if you've already played a little bit and want something with a little more gameplay to it. Nothing else of interest in 2020. We had a Sims 4 expansion. Alright, 2021 saw the release of Star Wars Hunters, which is a mobile game, although available on the Switch as well. However, this game will actually be shutting down this year, 2025, October I believe. So check it out now while you can. Oh, and then they had pinball again in VR. Now 2022, LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. LEGO hasn't slowed down on its video games, and it still proves to be a fun series that might just be immortal. But over time, it grew more advanced, and Complete Saga was falling behind with the generations. Not to say that the game has aged poorly, because it hasn't, it's timeless, but fans wondered what a new Complete Saga would be like, since technically it's no longer the Complete Saga. A modern LEGO Star Wars game with all 9 films, and it took them a few years after announcing this, quite a bit of delays, but I was keeping up with this one and I was excited for it. Me in my 20s coming home from college, excited to play a new LEGO game. The excitement to relive my childhood and desperate escapism I needed at the time. I enjoyed the game, but it did seem to divide fans, and I haven't really touched it since release, so let's see how it is without the excitement fogging my lens. The game starts with a beautiful opening sequence showcasing love for these films, exploring fan-favorite moments from all eras. This is hype. Impressively reminded me why I loved Star Wars in a time when I was losing great interest in it. The menu offers a film selection screen at the beginning. You can only choose the first of each trilogy, allowing you to start with your favorite era. We're gonna go chronological here. The game is fully voice acted, but uses impersonators rather than movie lines to give us less limitations. Now this is really exciting for me because the prequels era uses Clone Wars voice actors, which has me really excited for Revenge of the Sith to hear James Arnold Taylor and Matt Latner. The opening isn't a level, but a sort of free roam. The game has open world style hubs that interconnect with levels. So yeah, it's different from the original. Even the camera style feels generic. The combat, which has a combo meter that doesn't really do much. Just looking at this, it seems to be having kind of a identity crisis. And a good chunk of this game really is told through these free roam events. At least the comedy here still feels a lot closer at home with LEGO. And we do get to see events that weren't in the original, such as driving the bongo. Although the vehicle missions are rather bland. They also added in bonus conditions alongside the mini kits and True Jedi to unlock. and there's also upgrades in a LEGO game. Maybe they're doing a bit too much, I don't know. The cutscenes still do a great job recreating famous moments in a fast pace, many of which were previously neglected. Now the graphical details are incredible. Look at the sand on the figures as they get to Mos Espa. It's like playing with your Legos in a sandbox. This is great. And Mos Espa is also where I had my first game crash. Love that. No, Padme, don't groom the boy. The pod race does pay crazy homage to both the original game and the pod racer game. This time in a first person with a track that should feel familiar, and they actually included all the Senate stuff. Better Call Maul? I see what you did there. The rest of the film is carried out by the remaining missions. The next being the duel with Maul, which brings us to the boss battles of the game. They're interesting. You go through several stages, chasing and smacking until whittling their health bar down. You get some QTE clashes and, yeah. We don't even get to play Padme's route this time, that's weird. But we do get Jar Jar's battle, which was not in the original. And then after that, you unlock free play mode, which allows you to go find all those Kyber bricks or whatever else in the galaxy that you need, as this game's intended to have most of its playtime in its free roam. Alright. Attack of the Clones was pretty interesting since it never had a proper game outside of the Game Boy one and the original LEGO Star Wars. It's interesting to see it get a more detailed game interpretation. And again, it's really great to see this with Clone Wars actors.
My goodness, you've grown.
So have you. Grown more beautiful, I mean.
Then we get to explore the nightlife of Coruscant, which is probably one of my favorite stages in the free roam. I really like going through here. The entirety of Camino happens in a walk and talk, ending on a boss fight that's still technically in free roam. The space battle with Jango in the asteroid field that was not in the original game. Also not present in the original game except for the Game Boy version of LEGO Star Wars was Anakin's incident with his mother and his time with Padme on Naboo. Bunk beds? And they did include Anakin's mother's death this time in a way. And C-3PO got dragged along for the ride, poor guy. This is our third time playing the Geonosis Arena. Is that Dooku with a lollipop?
Lollipops.
Boy, I can't wait to see how they reinvented the Battle of Coruscant, one of the most iconic levels of the original game, and iconic moments of the franchise. Oh yeah, this is awesome. Look at the detail and the right soundtrack this time. Oh, it was just a cutscene. Okay. Now during my boss fight with Dooku, I had to restart my game because he just kept strutting here. I got soft locked from finishing the mission. I have 700k studs, thanks. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Apparently I'm not the only person that this has happened to either, so nice to know that there are still bugs, known bugs, in this game that have not been fixed. Oh, and it didn't happen once. Not once, but twice. Whew. Well, third time's the charm, as they say. Anakin eating cake while staring at Padme. In the original, Revenge of the Sith wasn't very detailed because that game released before the film did. So it's nice to see everything that wasn't in the predecessor. Oh, that's just disrespectful. Well, at least the boss with Grievous is a lot more accurate this time. And we get to see the attack on Palpatine. But sadly, we do not get to slaughter younglings in this title. We yet again experience Order 66 through Yoda as he escapes Kashyyyk, moving us to the final bosses of the film. Yoda versus Sidious at the Senate first. Oh god! The boss with Anakin is a bit disappointing, especially if you're playing co-op. In the original, you could play as Anakin and Obi-Wan both helping and battling each other, which was a really fun and innovative way to allow two players to experience that. Here, one person gets to fight while the droids do some work on the other side. I haven't said it yet prior to this, but the co-op is not great in this game. It's really not. I played this when it came out with my girlfriend, and it definitely leads more into the favor of the first player. And to be fair, the original did have moments like that, but I feel like this game just fumbled it way more. The best part of this is hearing the Clone Wars voice actors play out the scenes.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
Now for the original trilogy. It actually does a reference to Rogue One. Wow, Vader got a little jiggle in his walk. And the voice actors that they got for this are pretty great. I think they did a wonderful job capturing the spirit of the original actors. At Tatooine, Luke meets R2 and C-3PO, giving us a pretty detailed look at his old farm home, and I had a lot of fun looking at the references here. It kind of feels like they put more love into the original trilogy. Not that I can really blame them for that, but I think by this point you get the gist. The rest of the game covers the films in similar fashion, witty jokes and not so good ones. The big thing here is that you do get to play the last two films for the first time. So if you're a fan of the sequels, I'm sure that's something exciting for you. I will say though, that sounds nothing at all like Adam Driver.
That lightsaber, it belongs to me.
With all 9 films, that brings over hundreds of ships and characters from the franchise, and there's DLC based off of the TV shows, mostly, as well as some fun ones. I still think Complete Saga is a better game as its simplicity works in its favor. Skywalker Saga isn't bad, but it does feel as if we're doing too much at times. From its attempts of a combo system, its open world features, which are better than LEGO Force Awakens, but still not great. I would have been fine with a traditional level structure myself, but it is cool to have some exploration in these locations, as well as just being able to see these moments that weren't adapted in the original. I think that this is a great Star Wars game, but not a very great LEGO game. These more so keep me from thinking that this is better than the Complete Saga, because it's not, but it's still a great game, as many of these issues are minute in the grand scheme of things. I did have a great time playing it, and that's what matters most. Now it's time for Star Wars Jedi Survivor, my first time playing this one, and I am excited for it. From the first enemy I killed, it felt so much better. Even the general movement feels so much more lighter, in a good way. And we have our abilities from the start, showing that Cal is a much more seasoned Jedi over the years since the previous. At this point, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm gonna like this one. The cutscenes, however, aren't as impressive as the first game, whereas in the predecessor, had in-game seamless transitions. Here on the PlayStation 5, the cutscenes are really choppy, transitions into widescreen bars with bad frame rate. It feels like a step down from this department. And apparently the PC version of this game was very poorly optimized and still is, as its reviews aren't so great. Imagine it looks pretty bad on that too. On the opening mission, we link up with this guy, Akuna, a mercenary with a generic Empire ruined my family story, assists Cal. Yeah, I can tell this guy's gonna probably betray us or die, one or the other. Maybe both. We'll find out. The opening here did kind of remind me of an Arkham game. So now Cal's got a new crew and makes me wonder, where are the people that we care about? And they're all definitely gonna die. Of course this one's still alive, all we did was throw her off a tree. Called it! During the duel with the Ninth Sister, we unlock a new stance, and that's a big thing with this game. We've got battle stances here. As we play along, we'll unlock a lot of unique different styles. The customization is certainly much more detailed here. The lightsaber has a lot more to it than just the parts, but also detailing specific sections, giving a lot more color choices. You can also determine how aged the lightsaber looks. Cal himself also has a lot more customization options from his hair, beard, and clothing. The game has us going to get the old band back together. While looking for Grease, we run into some familiar faces. Hey guys! Oh, fake southern accent in Star Wars. Is this Space Texas? Okay, Clint Eastwood. It didn't help that I gave him that beard, it did not. And the cape. Wow, Grease went full 70s on us. We start this story arc that connects to the whole High Republic days, which I think is really big with Disney right now. We have this old droid that sends us to do some tomb raiding, and eventually we get sent on this quest looking for this safe haven planet from the Empire. Doing so, we run into this old Jedi who Walt Disney'd himself. He wakes up and gets a little angry and does a kyber bleeding. Well, better than Acolyte, at least. We have ourselves a little duel, and we'll have plenty more before he runs off with old Wesker. Now it's time to find Seer, and while looking for Seer, we find Marin. Yay. Whoa, things are getting a little romantical over here. Well, it's time for Dune. What the? I thought you were dead. And there's Seer. And I got a gun? Yeah, I have a feeling I will not be using this stance much at all. Wait a minute. This is just from Like a Dragon Ishin. Well, we got more tomb raiding to do. We got this bounty hunter side quest thing. That's neat. Now a little more playtime. We go to the Shattered Moon space station. Just really cool design. I actually think I like this one probably the most. Get another stance, which potentially may be my favorite in the game. After finding all these relics, we go back to Seer, and then the Empire is doing what it does. And while trying to solve this puzzle, my game crashed, sending me back about 20 minutes. Don't you love how these modern Star Wars games just crash a lot? That's great, right? Definitely not going to be a problem with the next one. I swear to God, if they kill Marin, I'm throwing my system. And we're back to Kobo again. Needless to say, we spend most of the game on this one planet. Rick the door technician? What a boss. I could smell the betrayal. I can smell it. It's coming. It's gonna happen. Someone's about to die. What did I say? What did I say? I knew it back on frickin' Coruscant. I knew it was gonna happen. Yeah, just found out he's alive for him to die again. Okay, well that I didn't expect. Seer gameplay. Oh, okay. This is pretty badass. Oh, hey, you're here. Why? A proper fight this time. Okay, yeah, sure. Man, damn. Yeah, I expected it. I did. It's not surprising, but damn. Well, I guess he knew better to fight Cal in that condition because he just leaves. He just showed up. He just left. Okay. Okay. Well, we gotta go chase Bode now. So Bode is just another example of attachments gone wrong. Every action he makes doesn't really make a lot of sense other than we need to show him vulnerable to the dark side or to being evil because he's gotta protect his daughter to make him go crazy because Sith plot lines. Whatever. I definitely find Cal's struggle a lot more interesting and convincing. I mean, yeah, watching this other guy almost kill his daughter twice with the Force in his way of protecting her. Okay, Anakin. And then he dies for no reason. Oh man. So much of this could have been avoided. This is bizarre. This is a bizarre entry. I was so excited at the beginning of this game for all the potential, all the improvements that were introduced early on. And gameplay wise, that still rings true. This is still very fun and much more improved gameplay wise. But the narrative is a mess. Great. It feels like a series of events happening for no real reason. And while the game is 150 gigabytes, there's only like 4 planets to travel, and 90% of that time is spent on one of them. And sure, they're big maps, but come on. It makes the redundancy feel even more tedious and dragged out. It in fact does not make this game feel larger, but it makes it feel hollow. I don't know, maybe I'll like this one more revisiting it, because I was also mixed on Fallen Order when it released, but came to appreciate it more over time. That was the best part of its story, is their journey and seeing how they changed over time. And Cal is still very much an enjoyable character, it's just a shame that there was no real story for them here. Apparently there's a third game in the works, so we can only hope that it goes forward from here. We're at the last game. Wow. Huh. Well, the last game is Star Wars Outlaws. There was a lot of negativity towards this before the game even released, and I felt that that was pretty crude myself. But here's the truth about Star Wars Outlaws, and I must apologize that I don't have a lot of footage here because I had a little issue capturing this game that set me back many hours, so please forgive me on that. But anyway, here's the rundown on Outlaws. It is a good game. However, I got the game on PC and it is quite buggy, definitely buggier than the previous 2 games we've played, and could use some polishing. And it's an Ubisoft game, so there's that. But when it works, Outlaws is a great game. It offers you a different Star Wars experience from the traditional lightsaber and Empire shenanigans. We have a story set between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Vast open worlds, pretty fun but simplistic story that interestingly connects with the solo films as well, bringing back Daenerys' character, who just kind of exists, I guess. It's kind of like a wannabe space Red Dead, showing yet again the lack of originality in these last couple modern titles. The game is chock full of activities that aren't exactly original to gaming, but are a breath of fresh air from what we've been seeing. And this is another lengthy title. You'll get your money's worth here, with some hefty hours playing Sabacc to some shady underground business. I was genuinely surprised how good Outlaws ended up being that it was an Ubisoft game. Yeah, you can expect it to get some negative reception before it even releases, but I was pleasantly surprised with this one. But I think it works more so for a Star Wars fan, especially one that might be feeling fatigued with some of the other games, just to get something a little different, even if it isn't very original. It's different for Star Wars, as of late, at least. But for an average gamer, I'm not quite sure if it would do much for them. Now, I know I went through these last couple games pretty fast, but again, they're still fairly fresh and talked about with the fans and community. And I really wanted this video to showcase the history of Star Wars games and how they evolved over time. But as we got to the newer games, it seemed less like seeing the evolution of Star Wars games and rather, here's Star Wars cloning an already popular game. It's a bit disappointing in that regard for sure, but it doesn't make them not worthwhile. We saw a lot of ingenuity in the early days, breaking the technical barriers with strong aspirations to give Star Wars fans amazing experiences and recreations of their favorite aspects of these films. And for what it's worth, this was an incredibly rewarding journey. And frustrating. Very frustrating one. I think I enjoyed seeing the earliest days the most, and you don't really see those talked about as much these days, which again is why I wanted to spend more time on, say, the Japanese Famicom game. You don't really see people talk about that or play through it all the way. I can't believe I did. This was a great adventure. It took more than half a year to do all of this, and I really wanted to give these games as much time as they deserved, and some of them I still feel like I could have given more time to, but if I did, we'd never be able to move on, and it is time to move on. Star Wars games will probably not stop being made ever as long as Disney keeps milking it. There are many on the way, some of them coming quite soon. I'm especially excited for the KOTOR remake, and I'll probably be there day one for that title. But until then, I need a break from Star Wars, and I need to spend some time with some different topics. So, if you enjoyed these videos, please leave a like, it helps my channel out a lot, and fighting that algorithm. And I mean, you made it this far. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and please check out my socials to keep up with the channel. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.